Hey listener, this is Heaving Bosoms, the podcast where two best friends recap romance novels while commenting, going on tangents, and being ridiculous. I'm excited to announce that we have a special episode for you. This week, we couldn't. I don't know if you're in a similar boat, but we just couldn't. So we reached out to our pals over at the Cigarette Burns podcast, and they graciously offered to let us air Erin's guest spot where she and Cole recapped Notting Hill. Make sure to head over and listen to the Cigarette Burns and their recaps of blockbuster films. So today, you're still getting two best friends recapping a love story, except that this time it's a slightly different flavor with the combination of Erin and Cole. And I'm just going to do our lady love up top this week. That is, reach out for help if life is a little too much and you need a break. Your friends will be there for you because they are amazing friends. So, big thanks and huge amounts of love to Cole and Jed. And without further ado, here is Notting Hill with Erin and Cole.
Sorry, I fucked you up. I'm sorry. One.
So there's a lot of...
I'm sorry. Just go.
So there's a lot of familiar faces in this movie that came out, 21 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But one of them is
21 years ago. 21 years ago.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's so many. Anyway.
But one of them more striking and uglier than all the rest. but somehow made quite an impact, at least on movies that I was watching for like the 10 or 15 years after this, because he shows up as basically he plays the same character in The Replacements.
Oh,
obviously.
God. Yes.
Keanu Reeves classic.
The Replacements, you know what? I'm going to write that down at the end of the episode. Watch for it. It's going to be a wreck. Replacements.
If you say it's going to be a wreck, that means it's already a wreck.
I'm wrecking it.
Cold open recommendation.
Is such an underrated movie.
It's so good.
This guy might play the same guy in a lot of things, but it's a good guy. Like, I feel like it's a brilliant character.
Yeah, he is. I mean, obviously, he was in, I think it was Deathly Hallows Part 1, because if you're a British actor...
He's the Daddy Lovegood. Nope. He's the dad. What's his name? Xenophilus.
I don't know. Xenophilius something or other.
Lovegood.
I don't know.
Daddy Lovegood.
But the stupidest character I ever saw him play, because God bless him, he's just physically not maybe an attractive person.
Sure.
But in the 5-year engagement, somehow Emily Blunt breaks her engagement with Jason Segel.
Yes.
For him.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff I didn't buy about that movie, which was a perfectly fine movie.
It was, yeah, I liked it.
That was total nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah. Jason Segel's, he's a hunk.
More so than Spike. I mean,
yeah, Spike's not a hunk.
And
he was in one of those Spider-Man. He was in a Spider-Man.
Was he Leo Spider-Man? Was that?
No, he was like Mr. Lizard.
Mr. Lizard.
Lizard,
Daddy
the bad guy.
Good.
I swear he was like a guy who turns into a lizard. I swear this is true. I know you can't Google it right now, but he was in a Spider-Man and he was a lizard. And I remember thinking, it's Spike. This might end up not being true. On my podcast a couple weeks ago, I said that Hilary Duff was Xenon Girl of the 21st century, and she married a professional hockey player. All of three things were not true.
None of that is true.
No, it's Kirsten Storms, and neither of them are married to a hockey player. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, I'm pretty sure he played Mr. Lizard, though.
As you guys have probably noticed, this is not Jed with me today.
Nope.
Your favorite guest host, Erin from Heaving Bosoms, is here with us.
I think I'm your only guest host ever.
That's true. I've had interviews, but you're definitely the only one we trust to help steer the ship. Obviously, by that Dynamite cold open.
Here's the thing. After watching a Richard Curtis movie, sometimes you feel like it's charming to be a bumbling fuck-up idiot. You know?
He's only grossed about $6 billion doing that. So I mean, it's worth it.
Like, if you watch one of these for the rest of the day, you're like, oh no, I've fumbled my thing. I've dropped my schmur. Like, oh dear. You know, and you're like, I'm killing it. Like, I'm being charming right now. It's not true.
I'm going to get the movie star with this. This shtick is going to work. Because
none of us look like Hugh Grant, but you think it's going to work.
That's true. Well, since you brought it up, let's just play him the trailer.
Right.
A very ordinary boy bumps into a girl and takes her home.
The bathroom's on the top floor.
It happens all the time. But she is no ordinary girl. She is Anna Scott, the most famous film star in the world. And when they get together, everyone has something to say.
Anna Scott. Hello, Anna. Scott.
Hi, guys. Oh, Jesus, fuck.
They always do that when I leave a house. This is a peculiarly strange person to have got involved with.
It's not Fergie, is it? You must be Spike.
Thank you, God. I don't want to interfere on the thing, but she's in your house.
Yes.
Well, isn't this perhaps a nice opportunity to slip her one?
Spike.
But when two worlds collide...
I live in Notting Hill, you live in Beverly Hills. Everyone in the world knows who you are.
And the news is bad...
Tomorrow, there'll be pictures of you in every newspaper in your goddamn underwear.
And getting worse.
I went out in my goddamn underwear too.
Get out.
How does an ordinary boy...
Let's stay calm.
You can stay calm.
...keep the most famous girl in the world?
The fame thing isn't really real. I'm also just a girl.
Standing in front of a boy.
Asking him to love her.
You daft prick.
The creators of 4 Weddings and a Funeral invite you to join Julia Roberts and Hugh Grant in a place called Notting Hill.
Yep, I'm just in a good mood. I'm in a better mood now.
I'm
just
psyched.
by seeing that trailer.
Can't wait to watch it.
So that trailer, classic rom-com trailer, whatever, but it does what I think every rom-com needs to do, which is just put you in a happy mood, understanding that you're going to get your happily ever after. The stakes are never going to be that high, but you're totally in. And obviously, guys, we're talking about Notting Hill today, the classic 99 rom-com starring Hugh Grant, Julia Roberts, a delightful Alec Baldwin, written by Richard Curtis, who brought you 4 Weddings and a Funeral, Love Actually. This is
Bridget Jones.
Bridget Jones, obviously. This is just one of my favorite all-time rom-coms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I hadn't seen it in a number of years, strangely. I hadn't gone back and watched it in a long time.
That surprises me. This is definitely a once a year. Like, Jess and I will hit this once a year. Easy.
Yeah. In fact, I told some of my friends wanted to hang out last night. I have a lot of friends who want to hang out.
You're very popular. I get that.
They're my work friends who are my bubble, who are the only people who I can see, who, I enjoy hanging out with them, but, it's my bubble. And they were like, we should hang out. And I was like, I have to watch Notting Hill. And 2 of them pieced out because they had just watched Notting Hill. They're like, I watched Notting Hill earlier this week. Like, it was a favorite pastime of theirs, which is strange. So I think a lot of people go back to this one.
That's the wrong reaction for a couple of reasons. Like,
yeah, I know.
With them, like, just watching it.
Yeah,
but the concept that you got your fill of it is total nonsense to me. But before we start breaking down this classic, I do want to talk about, who's responsible for it, what it did, all that stuff. So as we mentioned, written by Richard Curtis. Richard Curtis, obviously, I'm sure a lot of you know, classic, maybe the most prolific comedic British writer of the last 25 years-ish or so. I mean, he wrote on Blackadder, he wrote 4 Weddings, he did Love Actually. You mentioned the Bridget Jones Diary.
Yeah.
I think he didn't do the 3rd, though. I think he only did the first 2.
That tracks. That makes sense. The 3rd did lose all of the charm, so...
Well, Patrick Dempsey. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do about that? He hasn't been good since... God damn it.
Maid of Honor. I agree.
No, I was going with the pandemic movie, but now I can't remember it.
Oh, Outbreak. Excellent.
I was going to say Outbreak, but then I was like, no, it's not Outbreak. It's the other one.
How could you forget Jimbo?
Oh,
Jimbo,
I didn't forget Jimbo. I forgot the name of the... Jimbo was all I could remember. That was the problem.
And he wrote Pirate Radio, an underseen movie. It was a really good, solid film.
It was great.
Did War Horse, which I liked. He did last year. I think it was last year, but time doesn't seem to matter anymore. So I'm struggling to remember if it was 2018 or 2019. But Yesterday, the movie about the guy who like gets in a wreck or something, and then nobody knows who the Beatles are. Not a great film.
Didn't see it because you told me it wasn't a great film. So
yeah, it's like, yeah, the Beatles, the music's fine, but like it was whatever. And he's apparently working on a Little Mermaid adaptation, not the one for Disney. So I'm kind of curious to see how many Little Mermaid adaptations the world really needs.
Yeah,
to see if that actually gets off the ground. But so he's kind of the brain trust behind it. He wanted Mike Newell to direct this. Mike Newell turned that one down. He did. Mike Newell directed 4 Weddings. And
I think that
Roger
could
Michel
have been
did this one.
I think it could have been a better movie had Mike Newell taken that job. I have a few direction problems with this movie.
I'm very excited to hear that because for me, this is blanket director movie. There's nothing super special with the exception of a couple of camera shots in the first dinner scene. Other than that, I feel like they just put the camera on pretty charismatic people and that was that.
Yeah, I feel like that's true 98% of the time. And then the other 2% are like, why'd they do that? That's a weird choice from like where they can, like there's a drone shot for no reason during the, we'll get to it. But I had a couple just like, that's an odd choice.
If you want to take Roger Michel to the woodshed right now, I say do it.
No, I don't.
So Roger Michel directed it. This is kind of his first big Hollywoody thing. He did Morning Glory, which is I thought it was terrible when I first saw it. It's the Rachel McAdams, Harrison Ford comedy. She works at a news station.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I remember that.
I revisited that a couple years ago, and I liked it more. When I first saw it, I thought it was really bad. When I rewatched it, I'm like, oh, that's totally fine. Like that's a 4.5, 5 out of 10.
I almost want to say that I saw that with you, and we both didn't like it.
No, because I've only seen that in California.
I don't know then. But I've seen that, and I didn't like it. Now I can't remember why I would have seen it if not with you. But somehow I did. Maybe it was on a plane. Yeah,
it's not necessarily worth revisiting, but it's like whatever. Hyde Park on Hudson with Laura Linney and Bill Murray. And he also did My Cousin Rachel with Rachel Weisz. So he's done, got a little bit more into the dramatic. But I think it's an interesting point you bring up about Mike Newell, who did an incredible job with 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Yeah.
But I just want you to know that he turned this down because he was too busy working on the Air Traffic Controller Classic Pushing Tin.
Oh, no. Well, then,
So
history righted itself with that decision then.
Yeah, maybe he wasn't in the right space to make Notting Hill better than Roger Michel did. So
yeah, fair enough.
I do want to give props at this point when we're talking about sort of behind the camera. I mean, the music division, just great job, guys. The song choices in this movie, it is so 1999. It just puts you in a spot. It's so perfect.
Sarcastic right now? I cannot tell.
I'm really not. I get that 98 Degrees is on the soundtrack. I understand that. I'm with you.
You're blowing my mind.
It's a nostalgia thing. Like, if I had never seen the movie and I went to it right now as a 37-year-old and I had my eyes closed, I didn't see anything anybody was wearing, what the cars were, and I just heard the soundtrack, I'd be like, 1999.
Here's the thing. I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing here. The score is great. Fine. Good.
Yeah,
great.
The score's great. Yeah.
The song choices.
Fantastic.
I cannot believe you right now. Because I feel like Notting Hill is a great film. Save a few things. One thing is the name Notting Hill. Terrible name for this movie. I don't understand why it's called Notting Hill.
Oh, what?
I don't. Why?
Because the whole movie takes place there, maybe? I don't know.
But it has nothing to do with the place. Why did and then bringing me to number 2, what a great segue, Erin, is the credit sequence at the beginning where it's just like a montage of like her and then him describing Notting Hill in great detail for no reason.
I have a theory about that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
And then the third thing is that 2% of weird directorial
okay, great.
choices.
I don't want to hear it, but go.
And then the fourth thing is they use 2 songs in this movie, total, period. Mm-hmm. Both of which are very strange choices, and both of which are reused twice.
Yeah, because they're awesome.
You're ridiculous. You're ridiculous, man.
The songs that were used in this movie are the musical version of Hugh Grant's hair.
I'll give you that.
They're perfect for that singular moment, and then it's like, no, we're gonna move away from this.
Then if they're perfect for that singular moment, don't use them again. That's how I feel. Pick a new and different song for later in the film.
Fair enough. But what you mentioned, I think is really interesting about the intro to the movie. And I want to just get it out of the way now because I'm going to forget. I think coming off of 4 Weddings and a Funeral, this was Richard Curtis really trying to sell a movie to America. So with Julia Roberts being basically the only American in the movie. I mean, Alec Baldwin's in it for like a minute and a half, but she's basically the only American in the movie. And it starts off by showing everybody this movie is going to be about Julia Roberts, an American. And we then go to Notting Hill, and I think he describes Notting Hill in incredible detail because Notting Hill does not mean anything to an American audience at all. You say Notting Hill,
okay, yeah.
Most of us have no clue what that is. Whereas if you come here and you just see like a big thing in American films, whether it's teen movies or romantic comedies, is when you're like driving into the town, it'll be like, oh, hi. Okay, we know where that's at. Or
sure, but I feel like then why? Okay, we don't have a point of reference for Notting Hill. Got it. Why do we need one? Except that you've called your movie Notting Hill. Otherwise, I don't need to know where in London this is. I know where London is. It's in there somewhere in the country. I know about it. Harry Potter lives there. I don't need to know the neighborhood. This movie has nothing to do with the neighborhood. You know, like, again, Harry Potter doesn't start out like, oh, Privet Drive, Surrey. Like, I don't care. I don't care where you live. The neighborhood doesn't make sense.
What would your alternative title be then?
You know, I don't know. I'm not a writer. I'm not Richard Curtis.
We'll just call it Helix. That seemed to be a nice press junket.
That seemed to be a great movie. Just rolling around in a spaceship.
Or what was it? Gramercy Park was the one with her and Modine.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking all pedophiliac in his bucket hat and weird mustache in the art museum.
No one looked good there. Why was it in black and white?
Rough move, Modine. Regardless of title issues and directorial issues and music issues, this movie on a $42 million budget went for $116 in the US and $364 worldwide, which is just an enormous haul for a romantic comedy.
It did well, yeah.
And as you guys, I'm sure, can hear, Bogart totally agrees with me. He is into this episode. So the cast, obviously we have Julia Roberts and Hugh Grant, but there's also a bunch of like standard stage and screen. You've seen them in a million things if you watch anything on the BBC actors.
Yes.
Rhys Evans, who plays Spike, is kind of he's the Jack Black part, I guess, where you sort of don't need him in the movie at all.
Well, I feel like in any Richard Curtis movie, you're going to get a band of like lovable misfit fuck-ups with weird faces. That's what you're. Yes. That's what's gonna like. There's gonna be your 2 movie stars, and then in the background, just like total, like you cannot believe they fucked up this bad. Weird-looking losers.
Yes,
always in the background.
Well, and I think in that I think that way he gets to maybe pass the ball around a little bit, so it's not the one person continually doing the thing to get the exposition across,
right?
Because you have a lot of people who are in this movie. And, you know, I've watched this movie 50, 60 times, but when you're watching it to prepare for, you know, an episode, I'm watching it a little more critically, and I'm like, okay, if we're going to have Spike, why do we need Martin? Like, why does Spike not work at the bookstore?
I love them all, though. You know, like, I feel like in an American romantic comedy, you usually get the one best friend. You've got your Matthew McConaughey, and then you've got your Bradley Cooper. You know, like you've got the guy next to the guy being like.
Are you forgetting Justin Bartha in that movie?
Oh yes, I am.
Why? I mean.
Oh my god!
Respect.
Oh my god! Zoe Deschanel and Justin Bartha killed a mockingbird in that movie. God, what a terrible fucking movie that is.
Very bad.
Anyway,
very, very bad.
In an American, this is going to be a 4-hour podcast. In an American romantic comedy, you have like the one friend. You have, what's her name? You used to say I looked like her. The frizzy hair from The Wedding Planner. Judy Greer.
Yes,
you have Judy Greer, who's like, hey, listen, he loves you. Go get him. You know, like that person. In these British ones, you have a pack of people always. And I think I like that better. I think I like the pack of people.
Well, and that's exactly what I was getting ready to say was like, I think in American cinema, we're taught that it needs to be super efficient and economical as to how many people you have in it. Whereas this, you have Martin working at the bookstore, really has nothing to do except a little bit of comic relief and the concept that like, yeah, he would talk to this guy Martin at the bookstore. Like that's what he's there for. And you have his whole group of friends where we see Bernie a little bit, we see Honey, his sister, a little bit, we see Bella a little bit. And I think if you're looking at it through a strictly American film lens, you're going, all 4 of those people can be one person.
Yeah. But it shows me, one reason I like the group is that it shows me he's beloved. Like everyone loves this guy. And like a bunch of different people and different kinds of people all agree this guy deserves to have like my friendship and love. And I think that goes a long way just by seeing that group and how well he fits into it.
Yeah, I know. I think that's a great point. And it's going to lead into a little game we're going to play later that I came up with called Who Do You Hate the Most in This Movie?
Julia Roberts. Anna Scott is my answer to that question every time.
Anna Scott's not on the list.
Well, I'm sorry. She's the worst person in this movie.
Oh, man. Are you fucking with me? Are we gonna get down on this?
No, if I had been at the restaurant that day, I think I would have been the only friend that was like, fuck her, man. She treats you like trash. She's going to dump you again. I mean...
So, okay, we're just going to... Now that you said that, we just have to play
right.
Who Do You Hate? Who do you hate more now? So, here's what I'm thinking when I'm seeing this movie. I had put down 3 names. I think these are the only 3 choices. Apparently, I was wrong because Anna Scott did not make this list.
She's such a bitch to him. Yeah.
Well, I have a feeling we're going to break that way down. So let's take Anna. Okay. Let's take Anna out of this game because she's too big. Who do you hate the most? Bernie, Bella, or Max?
Oh, they get to be together?
They're together. They're a unit. Ooh. Or Spike.
Oh, I honestly, Spike's a great friend. I have no problems with Spike. I like #justice for Spike. Like, I get that he told some people at the pub, but besides that, he wrongs our main characters in no way whatsoever. Like, he's portrayed as this guy is a terrible roommate, terrible friend, terrible everything. But besides, like, forgetting her name or forgetting that message, I've got no beef with Spike. He literally at the end runs into traffic.
Yes.
To get this guy to the press conference. I love Spike.
I think it was super smart that they wrote in there that he didn't actually sell the information.
Oh, yeah. I mean...
I think that was super important because I remember the first time I saw it, I'm like, that motherfucker did sell the information. Like, because he kind of is set up as being that kind of guy. And then it turns out he didn't. And I'm like, okay, cool. But I'm with you.
They set him up as a creep, but he doesn't actually behave like a creep. Like, he talks a big game, but he doesn't go into a room that night. He doesn't, like, do anything creepy when she's in the bathtub. He's not actually that guy. He just seems like that guy. Yeah,
he's just gross.
Yeah.
Which apparently Rhys Evans did live on a campsite.
Yeah.
For
that
this
tracks.
movie.
That does track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while I appreciate actors doing a job that I don't know how to do and getting into whatever mindset you need to get into to accomplish a role, it feels unnecessary to like not shower for weeks on end to have played this role.
Yeah. But it worked.
It did work.
He did look stinky to me. So. Yeah,
I feel like when I'm sitting in a room watching the movie, the room starts to smell worse when he's on the screen.
Oh, whenever we're at Will's flat, the room smells worse.
So, okay, so you're taking Spike off the list.
Spike's off the table.
Okay, so let's talk Bella Max.
You know, oof. I don't know. I think I like.
It's a tough question.
Yeah, I like Bella and Max. I think her relationship with Will's a little rough.
It feels to me, and I tend to lean this way, but I haven't made my decision yet because I wanted this to be a discussion. It's all well and good. She seems very nice, accomplished, brilliant, loves her husband.
Mm-hmm.
But when they set him up with all of these maniac train wrecks,
yeah,
it's like, okay, you people suck. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I think that's her, though. I think it's her.
And that's why I'm saying, but I think Max, though, I think Max, one of the people, I think the first date, the one that like walks in and is like, let's just get fucked up and go to town.
Yeah, frizzy hair.
She is from Max. I think Max set her.
Yeah, that's true. But
I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I don't know.
Not great.
I think she's still in love with Will. I think there's some problems there in that friendship. I think maybe they need a little distance. I think, and I don't know.
As much as I like, Tim McInerney who plays Max, visually it's a step down for her.
Yeah, visually you have to wonder what Will fucked up.
Well, it's like, is the wife that left him like Bella's best friend from college or something? Like, there had to be some sort of a betrayal there, because I don't think the "you were always kissing my neck" was really the problem.
Right. Yeah.
You were paying... Hugh Grant in the 90s was paying too much physical attention to me, so I couldn't take it anymore. I don't think that was the issue.
No. Yeah, I don't know. Bella and Max, I would rank below Spike.
Yeah, okay. I'm with you.
I mean, Bernie's just pitiful. I don't know.
So here's the reason that I really, really dislike Bernie. And the funny thing is he actually ends up having like what I think is one of the saddest, most pitiful, that's a perfect word for it, lines in the movie. But how much of a prick do you have to be to meet somebody and say like, oh,
how little they make?
Not just that, but like, oh, your profession is dog shit. And by the way, I'm going to need a salary check on you. Like, I'm just let me know. Like, spectacular asshole.
Yeah.
Now, let's just understand as human beings that those questions are terrible and should never be asked.
Right, yeah.
But then, if I'm showing up to a party with my friends with this woman, it doesn't matter that you don't recognize that she's a super famous person. Don't ask my date that. Let's not do that. Burn.
I think he's coming from a place where he hates his job and makes very little money, and he was trying to commiserate, would be like, oh, you have a shitty job too. It's really hard to be an actor. I'm a, bad stockbroker? Like, I think that's where what he was trying to do, but it was bad.
But he doesn't make little money. He makes a lot of money.
Does he make a lot of money?
No, Max at the table says, whereas you are very bad at your job, but or hate your job, but you make a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's just financially like,
never mind. He's just a straight prick. Bernie's the worst one.
Yeah. That's who I hate the most. He's worse than Anna Scott. I know that.
No, we'll get there.
Anyway, that's been our first edition of Who Do You Hate the Most in This Movie?
Is that one of the questions we got?
No, that's just a little game I came up with.
Oh, cool.
As I was watching it, I'm like, because let's not kid ourselves. All of our friends are wonderful people. We want them in our lives. They're the family we choose. But nobody is 100% pure. And as I'm watching this, I'm like, they're trying to help him. But man, are they doing some shit that I'm like, do you actually like this person?
Everyone has friends that are assholes. And
yeah. Well, it's like, okay, you set him up with Emily Mortimer. Cool. She was normal and cute, and although, do you know the story about her like awkwardness on the set and everything?
No.
So she apparently, obviously, did the audition, got the part, whatever, and then there was something, I think, in wardrobe that she was allergic to, and her whole body broke out in hives before they
Really?
were filming. So they like pumped her full of steroids, which
Oh.
makes you jittery as hell,
Mm-hmm.
and to try and calm down the hives. But every time she sort of got nervous, which in her words, she's like, when you're doing a movie, you get nervous.
Yeah.
She would break out
Oh no.
into massive hives. So like that whole scene, she's like, they're trying to like cheat her face certain ways to hide the hives and
Mhm.
do all of that. So
And she's got
her
that short
experience-
hair too. That must have been rough.
Yeah, so her experience was not great. But like besides her, I started thinking, I'm like, if my friends started setting me up with these train wrecks, I would be like, I don't think you guys actually like me. This is you're not doing friend right.
But
Um,
all the friends are train wrecks. They only know other train wrecks. Like,
yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, I do like that it's a hodgepodge of
Mhm.
friends. You know, having Honey in the bunch, obviously she's family, but like total oddball. Tony, I would like to spend more time with Tony the chef. Chucks it all in from an engineering firm and to
Yeah.
start his restaurant.
he seems
it's great.
fine.
But rewinding all the way back to the beginning of the movie,
Yeah.
where he's setting up sort of his community
Uh-huh.
in this perfectly titled film, Notting Hill,
Mm-hmm.
and giving you the boundaries of what they're going to do. I just think it's so interesting that he works at a travel bookshop, and they just it's just on its face hilarious because everything that happens in every scene that's in that bookshop is a great joke.
Mm-hmm.
Like having the pickpocket
Mhm.
try to steal from a travel bookshop.
It's so funny.
It's just hilarious.
Yeah.
And having the guy come into a travel bookshop,
Mhm.
the title of which is not like books, it's the Travel Book Company
Yeah.
or whatever.
Travel books.
To say, you got the new Grisham?
Yeah.
No. Do you have any Dickens? Well, that would be a novel too.
Any Poe.
Yeah.
Much like, and I wonder,
Martin, your customer.
listen, guys,
Fantastic.
are any of you British? Listen, in Killing Me Softly, great movie, one of my favorite films. You know what? I'm going to write that down as a rec. Killing Me Softly.
Off of classic British romance.
Uh-huh. Listen, Killing Me Softly is one of the worst movies ever made. It's one of my favorites. But
Heather
there's
Graham, Joseph Fiennes, sexual thriller, fellas.
it's an erotic thriller about
It's fantastic. But it's
a
terrible.
celebrity mountaineer and the dumbest woman to have ever lived. But in that movie, there is a bookshop that looks like it's also in London called Summit Books. That is a bookshop just about mountaineering.
I think I know where your question's going, and I
Is
have the
this
same
an
question.
English thing to just have a bookstore that's just one thing?
Hyper specific bookstores.
Like she goes into that bookstore and she's looking at a book about the hero in that film, and it's like mountains, and then behind her are all books about mountains and climbing. It's very strange.
See, I feel like if I were walking through Notting Hill or some other place in London where they had these specific bookstores,
Mm-hmm.
the first one I'd be like, okay, travel books, okay, that's fine. And then, sports books, okay, whatever, that's fine.
Sports books.
But then you get to like Summit and they're like, we just do mountains. I would have to go in and be like, but do you have this one? They'd be like, no, that's about a hike.
It's different.
That's no, that would be rafting.
That's
We
about
don't cover those
a
here.
flat hike. Yeah,
Yes.
we can't do that.
That's a mesa. We are talking about peaks here. That's a very, very good question. Yes, any of you out there in Britain or have been there, please let us know, because now I'm very intrigued. But no, I like how he sets up sort of the parameters that the movie's going to exist in. We did get a lot of questions about the Blue Door.
Really?
The Blue Door has quite a bit of history. Apparently, it's a very popular site to visit because the Blue Door exists.
Oh.
And the Blue Door was actually the home of Richard Curtis.
Oh, really?
In Notting Hill.
That's
cool. So they could not use the interior because, as opposed to getting into a rather tiny flat, it is an enormously ornate,
gigantic,
beautiful place.
Yeah,
like
sure.
when you open the door, it goes into a courtyard.
Yeah, I'm
apparently.
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they did use the door, and then it is sold. Richard Curtis doesn't own it anymore, but it's sold. The people painted the door a different color because they wanted people to stop coming. And then the next people who bought it restored the Blue Door to its blueness.
What a bunch of fucking assholes.
Which that they bought the house because it was
Yeah,
in
you
Notting,
bought
or
it-
partly. Yeah,
That's stupid.
Horseshit.
That's like
Horseshit.
buying the Amityville horror house and like getting rid of the ghosts. It's stupid.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Get out of here, flies. We don't want you here. People will come see you. It's stupid.
We ghost busted. Sorry.
Ghost busted.
There's
Got him
there's
in
no
a
reason to come here again.
Trap.
So,
Okay.
So I think one of the most important parts of the movie is their first introduction. I like that there was just no setup to a reason that they would connect. And I guess maybe we can have the Anna Scott question now, but I want to have the Julia Roberts question now, or conversation.
Sure.
Where is she on your like Mount Rushmore of either romantic leads or movie stars in your lifetime or whatever? Like, where do you rate Julia Roberts?
I love Julia Roberts. I think she is one of the quintessential romantic heroines. I can say that as far as romance movies go, I prefer her as an actress, not necessarily movies, but I prefer her to Meg Ryan. I'll say that.
I'll give you that. And that's a hard, that's splitting hairs for me, but I'll give you that.
That's high on the list. I mean, yeah. I would say if I'm ranking like quintessential romantic comedy actresses, I think...
Yeah, let's Mount Rushmore this. I'll give you 4.
I think I would say Sandra Bullock is my top, and then Julia Roberts, and then Meg Ryan, and then, I don't know, the rest, your Jennifer Garners.
Those are my...
Your various
3.
Garners.
Those are my exact 3, and my 4th would be like Emma Stone.
Sure. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned Sandra Bullock because she gets this genre, I think, better than anybody in the last 25 years. And knows how to use her charisma and knows how to be funny and sexy and dramatic and all those things. And Hugh Grant agrees with you because he got asked who his favorite romantic comedy partner was, and he said Sandy Bullock. Aww. So you and Hugh, that much closer.
Yeah.
We're getting you there. But yeah, like this part in her career, I think is really interesting. And I'm with you. Like, she's spectacular. Like, I'm a big Julia Roberts fan. Along with many of my favorite actors and actresses, their Oscars came for performances that I think are like whatever. Like, Erin Brockovich is a perfectly fine movie. Like, whatever. It's a 6 for me. I'm not that blown away by her performance. I'm not that blown away by the movie making. But it's whatever. I think she's incredible in this. I think she's incredible in a lot of the things she was in. But this is really, when I think about it, I think because, we're in the same generation. We cleared that up earlier. Off microphone. So in our generation, I feel like
I just want to say, I said something about Gen Z, and you said, aren't you in Gen Z? And I had to say, Cole, we went to high school together. I'm not in a younger generation than you. Anyway, all right.
So anyway, I feel like as far as my memory is concerned, Julia Roberts was always like this enormous, enormous star. Just huge. I went back to look at the filmography because that's just kind of where she is in my head. This, I think, was such a perfect timing for her in 99 that she obviously came out in like 90 with Pretty Woman. Like, that was the introduction. She had Mystic Pizza before that, then Pretty Woman, and then she's super, super popular.
Mystic Pizza, a breakout role for a lot of actors and actresses. Mostly Matt Damon.
Mostly Matt Damon, obviously.
All right, sorry,
I'm with you on that. I'm looking at it, and you realize, like, after Pretty Woman, she kind of didn't have a gigantic movie. There were some dramas in there. She had Flatliners, which is, kind of a cult classic. Yeah. It's not, like a great movie, but you look at it now, it's kind of fun. This was the start of her being like, oh my God, that's the biggest star in the world. Because she went, 97 was My Best Friend's Wedding. And then she runs off. Then she runs off My Best Friend's Wedding in 97, Conspiracy Theory, Stepmom, then Notting Hill. Then after Notting Hill is The Runaway Bride, Erin Brockovich, Mexican America Sweethearts, Ocean's 11, Mona Lisa Smiles, Wearing Crowns. Where like, I'm not saying she wasn't an A-lister before Notting Hill. She absolutely was an A-lister. But this was, I think, so unique in that she's playing the biggest star in the world at the time that she was actually the biggest star in the world. And it was sort of at the beginning of that. I don't think it was like a retrospective, like, oh, I used to be. Like, if you had Meryl Streep play this part in 1992, it would have been like, yeah, she's been the biggest actress in the world for 20 years.
Right.
So I think it hit her at a really cool part. And every time I see her come into a romantic comedy, especially, not just regular, like a dramatic role or whatever, she is so magnetic. Like, it's crazy. And it's not just looks. She just gets being on a movie set. She gets how to stand, how to enter a door. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, from an acting standpoint, she is so head and shoulders above everybody else in this movie. Like, she just is dominating every single scene, which I think is a really interesting.
But she should.
Dynamic.
She should. Because
absolutely,
she's this movie star that everybody is so starstruck by. Then that's great casting. Because like the fact that she is where your eyes go to in every scene, good job.
And it's better, and I think that's, like you said, perfect casting, because instead of bringing in somebody who's like popular at the time to play, quote, the biggest star in the world,
right?
You're like, okay, like you brought in somebody pretty or something, This is when they tried to remake La Dolce Vita with How to Lose Friends and Alienate People. They brought in Megan Fox as like the new ingenue, which is different. Being the new ingenue and being the biggest star in the world are totally different, but it's still sort of like we are sort of forcing you to believe this.
We can all agree, though, that My Best Friend's Wedding is the worst romantic comedy ever made.
We cannot.
Oh, really?
We cannot. And I'm going to put it this way, because I mean, when you talk about a genre like this, and I would think you shouldn't speak for an entire genre.
Sure.
Because we have Failure to Launch. We have Ghosts of Girlfriends Past.
My
Almost
Best Friend's
every
Wedding
Matthew.
Is the worst.
Okay, is it the worst, or is it the worst heroine in the history of romantic comedies? Because she's the worst.
Yeah,
She's the worst.
You're right. Failure to Launch is really bad. I don't know. It's pretty bad, though. But if My Best Friend's Wedding is on TBS, I will not watch it. If Failure to Launch is on TBS, I'll sit there.
Well, Failure to Launch is on Netflix right now, because Netflix has been continuously trying to get me to watch Failure to Launch.
No, I won't choose it on Netflix. Fuck that.
I won't either. It keeps being on like popular on Netflix. I'm like, that can't be true.
No, it's not. It's not. You're lying to me, Netflix. And Ghosts of Girlfriends Past. Also, I still haven't seen.
Don't you say it. Oh, okay, no, please watch it. It's on Netflix too, I think.
How dare you? How dare you? Because when you originally saw Ghosts of Girlfriends Past, you were so pissed off. You called me immediately and you were like, fuck this movie. I fucking never see this movie.
I paid real money for it. I paid actual money. You're already paying your Netflix subscription. It's just sitting there.
You're the reason I've never seen this movie, because you explicitly told me not to. And now you're sitting here 20 years later. Well, give it a watch. Fuck off.
I'm wiser now.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It's still the worst movie you've ever seen. But pay particular attention to the scene where he walks in, basically the whole intro, and just fires an arrow at somebody in order to take their picture. An actual arrow.
See, that really sounds like it's from Failure to Launch, but I'll give it a shot. Like there were fired arrows in that film as well.
Yeah, no, he has a job in this one. He's a photographer. It's
of course he is.
Real just awful stuff. Emma Stone though, great.
She's in it?
She plays one of the ghosts of Girlfriend's Past.
Jesus. All right, just let's move. Let's move.
Anyway, but I think this is also interesting when I think about romantic comedies with Julia Roberts. I kind of, in my head, think, oh, she made a ton of them before Notting Hill, and this was her sort of like
I thought so
back
too.
To it. Mm-hmm. And she really hadn't.
Just the one.
Like that really, just the one. I mean, I guess you can consider Pretty Woman a romantic comedy.
Oh, yeah, 100% Pretty Woman's romantic comedy. Sorry, yeah.
Since they went with the
more
one
so,
that they made
actually,
as opposed to the one that was written.
Yeah, I mean, more so than My Best Friend's Wedding, because that's not exactly a good ending there.
No, it's not a good ending, but it is the only ending because she's terrible.
Yeah, she's awful.
Like her performance is great, but the character is just terrible. So I was like, oh, this is kind of her run up to like the middle of those, like she's in her comfort zone with this movie. And I think it's a tall task to say you're the biggest star in the world, basically play yourself, which the creators have said Anna Scott was an amalgamation of Grace Kelly and Audrey Hepburn. They said this wasn't Julia Roberts. I'm calling bullshit on that.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I can't wait to see those nudes. Like, what?
Yeah. Like, just nonsense. But their connection to sort of, short story long, which is basically our brand when we're doing episodes. Mm-hmm. That first interaction is surprisingly cool from Hugh Grant, in my opinion.
The first one.
The first one.
The very first one.
In the bookstore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
He plays it pretty good. Gets rid of the thief in a efficient and charming way.
I'm sorry, can you just give me a second? Excuse me.
Yes?
Bad news.
What?
We've got a security camera in this bit of the shop.
So?
So I saw you put that book down your trousers.
What book?
The one down your trousers.
No, I don't have a book down my trousers.
Right. I tell you what, I'll call the police and, what can I say? If I'm wrong about the whole book down the trousers scenario, I really apologize.
Okay. What if I did have a book down my trousers?
Well, ideally, when I went back to the desk, you'd remove the Cadogan Guide to Bali from your trousers and, either wipe it and put it back or buy it. I'll see you in a sec.
The wipe it and put it back gets me every time. That's a very cool thing.
A guy tried to steal a DVD from me by putting it down his pants at my house one time and walking out. It was The Breakfast Club. His name was Mario Newsom, and he put my DVD of The Breakfast Club down the front of his pants, and he tried to walk out. That's the whole story.
Did you let him keep it?
No, of course not. It was my DVD of The Breakfast Club. I was 15. Are you kidding me?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair. By the way, I'm glad you named somebody because I feel like half the audience would have been like, did Cole do that? I did not steal a DVD.
No. This was a common thief who lived next door to me named Mario Newsom.
But yeah, he plays it incredibly cool, really cool with her. The whole thing about, let me throw this in, it's signed by the author. If you can find one. Like, what a great line. If you can find one that's not signed, it's worth an absolute fortune.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
Like, super charming. It's my contention that interaction is why she's like, this guy just spilled shit on my shirt, but I'll go back to his house.
Yeah, because I think there's something to the idea that he did that on purpose and is now inviting me back to his house. Like, I think it probably went through her head.
Okay, I thought you meant was the movie trying to show.
No, but if I'm her, if I'm Anna Scott, I just saw this guy at a bookstore, and then I went around the corner and he spilled orange juice on me and said, come to my house. It would cross my mind, was this on purpose? And is he trying to get me into his house? And, all of that. But I think she felt enough genuine energy in that first interaction to get her into the flat after the orange juice. I have a question, though, about the scene right before the orange juice.
Love it.
Okay. So... The who's the guy that works at the bookstore? I can't remember his name now.
Martin with the sexy cardies.
Sorry, sexy Cardi. Oh, I love her.
R.I.P. Emma Chambers, by the way. Very sad. She passed away.
She's
Heart
great.
attack.
She's outstanding.
Very, very good.
He says, do you want a cappuccino? They joke that they should make it a half because of how poor they are. He leaves. When he comes back, then Hugh Grant's like, do you fancy another one? I'm going to now leave the shop and get another cappuccino. And then the guy says he wants an orange juice. Then when he comes out of the coffee shop, he has the orange juice, which is in a coffee cup, which I feel like you wouldn't put it in a hot cup, a hot mug cup.
British listeners, please check us on that.
Yeah. And then a pastry and no cappuccino for himself. What is going on there? Like, would you ever leave, get a coffee, and then come back and then drink the coffee and have the other friend then leave and get a second coffee immediately? It's crazy to me.
Here's what I'm thinking. Portobello Road, bunch of those markets. Maybe he got his coffee, got the orange juice, and then was walking down, sipping his coffee, and then decided to grab a pastry somewhere else. Maybe they didn't come from the same place.
Oh, no, that's crazy. That's crazier than what I said. That's nuts.
I think you're right.
The only thing I can think is that he was just so befuddled by his interaction with her. And he was like, I need to go get a second coffee. I will. And then he forgot about that and then got a pastry instead. I don't know. It's so weird to me. Anyway.
More caffeine will fix this.
Exactly. Yeah, but then she goes into his flat with the blue door.
And this is like classic Hugh Grant, and I think this leads into, I want to ask this question we got from a listener before we listen to this passage, because I think it absolutely plays into what the question was, which was, how long would this movie actually be if Hugh Grant could get a sentence out?
How long would what? Oh, the movie?
Yeah, how long would basically how much shorter would the movie be if Hugh Grant could just spit out his sentence?
The movie would be probably, I think, 10 to 20 minutes shorter. However, no one would have seen it because.
And I'm sorry, this was at HEA Apologist asked this question.
Oh, hey, girl. Sup? I know you.
I was like, I figure y'all know each other. Yeah, so I think you're right. I think this is his charm.
Yeah.
But it's like 22 minutes shorter.
Yeah, I would hate it though. I would hate that movie. If he could just like look at her eyes and say stuff. Ugh. Gross.
Yeah, if it was Clooney, you'd be like, get out of here with this.
No, I wouldn't. No. But here's the thing. If it were Clooney and he looks in my eyes and he says sentences, I'm here for it. If Hugh Grant looks in my eyes and says sentences, I'm like, ew, like you're not even that pretty in the face. Like, get out of here. That's
you
the
need
whole
something
thing.
else.
Yeah,
you need something else.
You need some kind of tick. I don't know what it is, but
so I think this scene perfectly encapsulates that entire theme.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like a cup of tea before you go?
No.
Coffee?
No.
Orange juice? Probably not. Something else cold. Coke? Water? Some disgusting sugary drink pretending to have something to do with fruits of the forest? Yeah. Would you like something to eat? Something to nibble? Apricots soaked in honey. Quite why, no one knows, because it stops them tasting of apricots and makes them taste like honey. And if you wanted honey, you just buy honey instead of apricots. But nevertheless, there we go. They're yours if you want them.
Yeah.
Do you always say no to everything?
No. I'd better be going. Thanks for your, help.
You're welcome. And, may I also say, heavenly. Just take my one chance to say it. After you've read that terrible book, you're certainly not going to be coming back to the shop.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, my pleasure. So, it was nice to meet you. Surreal, but nice. Sorry. Surreal, but nice. What was I thinking?
Hi.
Hi.
I forgot my other bag.
All right. I'm very sorry about the surreal but nice comment. Disaster.
That's okay. I thought the apricot and honey thing was the real low point.
Okay, question is, you gonna go back and kiss him?
no. Mm-mm. But here's the thing. I'm sorry. Not
You got real serious. I wish you guys could see the video feed. Like she just like leaned in, like I'm gonna break this down for you.
No, like I think I felt so much like he was trying to do anything to keep her in the flat that I think that I would not have immediately gone back and kissed him. I think I would have thought about it and then maybe tracked him down later, like later that day or on a different day. Because in that moment, it seemed like he was so desperate to keep her there that if I were Anna Scott, I would be like, nah, something weird with this guy. I don't know. I'm glad she did.
Do you not buy into the idea that she left the bag on purpose?
Oh, no, she didn't leave the bag on purpose. No.
Okay.
She didn't decide that she wanted to kiss him until she got outside that door. That's the thing. You need to remove yourself from the situation and be like, no, he was charming and cute and genuine. He wasn't just desperately trying to keep me there because I'm a big famous actress. You need a little bit of distance. Then you can... But I would have needed like a couple hours probably.
Okay. Because there were a couple of people that ended up asking this question, which was like, why did she actually change her shirt? and put on the crop top.
My question is, why did she have the crop top in her bag?
Well, she was probably shopping, right? She had bags.
Oh, that makes sense. It's in a shopping bag. Oh, God. Because I'm like, why? Yeah. Why would you just have a crop top?
But like, she had a jacket. Mm-hmm. So it was like, why would you then change? Just put the jacket on.
It's wet. It's sticky.
I'm with you. I didn't think it was any like,
it's like
I don't think she needs to try to turn him on.
One time.
I don't think she needs to try to do that.
One time when we worked together at the cinema, I had a soda thing explode on my pants, and I had Coca-Cola all over my pants, and I took off my pants to drive home because they were so wet and sticky, and then I got pulled over by a cop. So I have personal experience with
I do remember you telling me this.
And when the officer was approaching the vehicle, I was desperately trying to get my pants back on, which was a weird moment. I should have just left them all the way off, because then when he got to the window, then they were just pulled down like enough to look like I had just pulled them down. It was rough. But what I'm saying is, it can be very uncomfortable when you have a sticky drink.
I would have changed my shirt as well. I think the questions were like, did she try to put on something sexy? And I'm like, she's Anna Scott. I don't think she needs to. Really. No, I think it's okay. Mm-hmm. I think she understood the power dynamic in that particular relationship.
Oh yeah, she did. Yeah.
So this is a good time, I think, too, to talk about the market. We got a couple of questions about this. At Butter of Peanuts asked about it had to be crazy on Portobello Road. So I did some research to make sure that they filmed on Portobello Road, which they did. So the answer to that question was, it sounds like it was probably an absolute nightmare to film that scene, which we'll break down a little bit, where it's like the changing of seasons scene and everything. But you see Portobello Road quite a bit in this movie, which is interesting because the majority of the movie is on a set. Like, they just built the travel bookshops on a set, the interior of everything's obviously on a set, all of that. But I guess Richard Curtis wrote over 200 letters to residents in that area of Notting Hill to try and get permission from them to be able to film on Portobello Road and all those places, by saying, we are going to donate, money to a bunch of different goodwill organizations and things like that. If you let us do this.
Because again, the neighborhood is so important to the narrative of this film.
See, you
the neighborhood is almost a character. It's so crucial that it take place in this neighborhood.
You're coming around. By the end of this, you're going to be like, Cole,
am I coming around? Wrong. Do you not know me at all? Was that my sincere voice?
Yeah. Do you have one? Is that something?
Wow, cuts me deep. That cuts me deep.
Okay, so this is probably just a good time to break down what I think is probably the scene most people think about with Notting Hill, even though later we're going to talk about, I see how you're looking at me. Later we're going to talk about like the dinner scene that I think encapsulates the whole movie. But I think when people think about this, first of all, it's Bill Withers' fault, I think, because it's a great song. Like, it's the perfect use song of Ain't No Sunshine.
Yep.
Which totally goes in the face of your bad songs in this movie bullshit take we had just a few minutes ago.
I wasn't thinking about Bill Withers. I was thinking about she, and then the other one, Bone Wither on the Bench, that one.
Oh God, that was a great ride. Thank you for doing that. That was
anytime.
That was a gift to everybody. This is why you keep getting invited back.
I'm here for you.
Oh, I'm so glad we're recording.
Is that going to be your ringtone now?
Yeah, that's going to be our new intro, actually. Those are our bumpers now, yeah.
Okay.
So this scene, if you guys haven't figured it out yet, is the one that we're talking about, like on Portobello Road, and this is after they kind of have the big breakup, and it's just, you look back on it now and you kind of see all the Easter eggs, but I think the first time you see it, you're like, wow, spectacular use of time passage with an amazing song. We just stroll down this incredibly famous part of Notting Hill, which is incredibly important to this story that's in this neighborhood.
Maybe that's why I put a little less weight on this scene than you do. I'm kind of like, okay, like I look at it and I see that it is a like directorial, like technological, like there are things that have been achieved in this film. To me, it's not like ooh as a function of like the movie, the story, the character, like it seems like a great feat of filmmaking, this scene, but that's kind of where it ends for me.
So you're like, good frosting doesn't really do much for the cake?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think it's impressive. I don't know that it's necessary.
I think it might stick out more for me just because kind of what we talked about with Roger Michel earlier about like this is sort of form directing. There's not a ton of greatness done except for that dinner scene we'll talk about in a little bit. But also this does strike me as like an artist had an idea and they executed it. And, you know, we get to see certain things about Honey and her relationship when she says she falls in love with cruel men later. We get to, you know, or earlier rather, we see that play out without having to have scenes about it. You know, I still love the bookend with the pregnant woman and then her with the baby at the very end. Like it
is cool. It's impressive.
And it's very sweet. Like, and I agree with you. It's more candy than it is like eating your vegetables and getting through the plot. But it's just, again, to your point earlier about like, this shows that people love him. Like he just seems like a beloved guy.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, his community loves him. His friends love him. Why doesn't Hannah Scott love him?
Yeah. And he's so sad. He's just so sad. The seasons are just passing.
He never changes clothes.
It's like he never changes clothes. I was going to say.
So gross.
For those of you who are both Cigarette Burns fans and also Twilight fans, it's like that section of New Moon where Edward is broken up with Bella and then it's just the months. Chapter 4, January. Chapter 5, February. Chapter 6, March. You know, like, and it's just the months. You just have to flip through the months and you're like, oh my gosh, Bella is just existing. She's not living. And I think that's how we feel.
Is it?
For him. Mm-hmm. Everything else is going on around him. He's not moving forward, you know?
So, you know, for those of you who are Cigarette Burns listeners who might not be into New Moon, I would not expect a New Moon episode of Cigarette Burns. In case you're like, oh, this was planting a seed for further payoff.
Or did we just speak it into existence? Like, how stupid, how deeply stupid would it be if you just did a new, like Twilight 2, like the second one, you know, like 2 in a series of 4 for no fucking reason.
We'll have Jed come on for his diss track and we'll just make him do New Moon by himself. But
that'd be great.
No, I think this is the scene, like I said, that really stands out. It's an incredible music choice. It's artistic. It's wonderful. And I think not the most impactful. See, is that goat or is that?
That is a combination of rooster and goat.
So they both
very
agree
excited.
with me. That's what I appreciate. I just like getting the applause. That while it may not accomplish as much as the dinner scene, it's just good to watch. It's just wonderful. So that's another, you know, in the question about was it difficult to film on Portobello Road and things. It probably looks like it, but is worth it. So whatever the letters and all that stuff that, you know, helped make it happen, awesome work. Now this happens way after their first kiss, and, you know, in getting back to kind of what we were talking about before we got sidetracked, you know, she kisses him and then she tries to get a hold of him and Spike screws up the messages. But it goes back to the fact that that's just Spike. Like, that's not a dick move by Spike. That's just kind of who he is.
Yeah. I want to say where I feel like Will sealed the deal with her when it's like, oh, this is the guy, is when she says, best not to tell anyone about this. And he says he's going to tell himself about it a lot, but don't worry, he'll never believe it. I found that to be his most charming, far more charming than when he mutters heavenly into the refrigerator. That's what sealed it for me.
I have to ask, because they kind of rest on the idea that surreal but nice is, I'm not saying that's the most charming thing in the world to say, but he like is kicking himself after he closes the door. And she, like, they bring it up again, like he apologizes for surreal but nice, and then she's like, is that like that didn't strike me as like a terrible thing to say to her.
I think for him, he recognizes in the bookshop, and just because he's a human in the world, that every interaction she has with a non-famous person has to be about her fame and that power dynamic and the fact that, you know, she's a star. And he never once until that moment acknowledges that. So I think that's why he's kicking himself for saying it was surreal. Because if she was just a normal girl that he met in the bookshop, he wouldn't have said that. And so that's why I think he's kicking himself. That's what I've always thought.
I like that. Good call.
And then she feels the same way because she never has an interaction with a normal person that's normal. And so for her, it's surreal as well.
I I think that the genuineness of their first interactions is sort of unique to the meet cute situation, because they obviously have the meet cute. We have the spilled orange juice, we have the bookstore, we have all that. But then there's not like, you don't see gigantic like explosions going off over their head, like fireworks are crazy. It's just like this nice slow burn build of like, she's kind of sarcastic and funny, but not mean. And I just really enjoyed their interplay without it being like, oh my God, love at first sight for both people. How are we going to make this work? And I think a worse movie, but probably a more common movie, makes them fall in love right away.
Right.
And then it's about them navigating, whether it's hiding it or fame, or the fame breaks them up or whatever. So I'm really, every time I see this movie, ecstatic they didn't go that route.
Yeah, because I like I said, I don't think she left the bag, but I do think if she wasn't into him, she wouldn't have gone back for the bag. Because it was her shopping bag with the travel book in it.
That was one of my questions too, was would she go
Who
back?
Who the fuck cares?
Like, she went back strictly because...
she went back to kiss him.
She went back to kiss him. And, the reason that she wanted to kiss him is because he says kebab so perfectly. So which is, and I promise you could write emails. I'll give them to Jesse. That is how I say kebab. Anytime we want to go get kebabs, I'm like, let's get some kebabs.
How often do you and Jesse get kebabs?
I like a kebab. I like a
really
once a week maybe.
Sorry, I just like these windows into your Hollywood lifestyle.
We make them though. Like we make them. So.
Wow, you make kebabs.
I mean, It's a stick and a grill. You're giving me a lot of credit here, or you're just making fun of me.
My husband once asked me to turn on the grill because he was on his way home, and boy, if I didn't know how to do that, that took the YouTube.
It's sad though. I'm actually I'm shy on my kebab intake because we can't grill out here because the world's on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's tough for you.
Sad subject. Anyway,
but hey, you know what? Generally though, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for learning how to work that grill and do a kebab.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I do want to talk about her style in this movie though too, because I think it's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
The suit at the press junket
with the tie.
Loved it.
With the dimple tie.
Loved it.
Really?
I loved it.
Are you being real with me?
I'm being 100% real with you right now. I'm being 100% real.
Oh my God, Cole. Like, I think her style in this movie sucks. The only outfit I like is when she goes to dinner with the friends.
Yep, that's incredible too. It's
a great outfit.
Phenomenal. The beret was a bold choice, particularly in that moment in time at the bookstore.
Woof. Yeah.
The one thing is, she does have a sunglasses problem. She had it in my best friend's wedding. She has it in this. Just too many sunglasses, really weird sunglasses. The late 90s were a weird place for sunglasses, I recognized.
I mean, 2020 is also a weird place for sunglasses. I don't know if you've seen what the kids are doing these days, but it's rough out there.
I don't go outside, so yeah, I have no clue.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But yeah, I think she looks incredible in this movie. You don't think, like, her hair, everything is, like, incredible?
I think you're blinded by how beautiful Julia Roberts is, because in that end scene, girl standing in front of a boy scene, her cardigan straight does not match. It does not match her shirt.
Yeah,
it doesn't match.
I wouldn't catch that. That's not something.
Exactly. And then it's a different blue for the skirt, which would work if it were just the cardigan or just the shirt, but the three together are not things to be worn together.
Don't they look better because she's giving him $1 million painting and saying she loves him?
Yeah, I'm that's what I'm saying. I think you're blinded because it's not the clothes. The clothes suck. It's everything else that's great.
Totally disagree. Right. Man, I thought we were going to be on a lot more common ground in this episode.
Me too. Me too. Now I'm not even sure if we're friends anymore.
Oh, please. We're not.
The last 20 years have meant nothing to me.
Well, this is going to play right into your wheelhouse. Question from a lot of people. Is Anna Scott, not Julia Roberts, but is Anna Scott a good actress?
A bitch. A good actress. Oh, man.
Is she a good actress?
I have never thought about this, but based on them running lines, I don't know though. She was having a bad day that day. That was the day that her nudes were leaked.
Yeah, let's not.
So I can get where she maybe wasn't.
That's rehearsal.
On.
We don't grade on rehearsal.
Well, if you've already got a script in your hand and you're memorizing your lines, so assumedly like table reads have already been done, You've read this script, you've taken this role, you've been through the contracting process. You're now memorizing your lines, and you don't know that your son is named Johnny and not Jimmy. I think we have a problem.
It didn't sound that movie was a lot about her kid, though. I'm just going to throw that out there.
But it was a lot about her co-star, who she also didn't know the name. It was like Clark or Max or something like that. Like, he corrected her.
Yeah, she didn't get that right.
She didn't know.
The nudes came out that day. We're not judging her on that.
Yeah, we're not judging her on that.
We're judging her on...
But that's all I have to go on.
No, that's not all you have to go on. You have the scene
walking down the spaceship thing in
Modine.
Helix.
Yeah, you got the Helix clips.
She did well in the Modine scene.
Modine didn't.
She was good in that.
Modine struggled.
No, yeah. Well, and so did the choice of black and white. What was that? Why is Anna Scott in a black and white film in 1999?
I don't know.
It wasn't The Artist. Like it wasn't. It just seemed like a modern movie. It's very.
This
strange.
Isn't Good Night and Good Luck. Jesus.
Yeah, it seemed to be a choice for no reason.
And is that the worst proposal you've ever heard in a movie? In 7 seconds, I'm going to ask you to marry me.
Anything that starts with like smile is the worst thing I've ever seen.
No, I'm going to go with Anna. I'm going to go with Anna Scott is fine. I don't think she's Meryl Streep. I don't think she's Julia Roberts.
No.
I think she's fine. That's what I would say. I don't think she's a bad actress. I don't think when she's saying I'm a bad actress, whatever, I don't think that's true. But I think she's totally a good, solid actress.
I think she probably thinks she's a bad actress.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Agree with that. I think she's probably better than Alec Baldwin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or Billy. Or Steven.
I was going to say, better than Alec Baldwin, the actor, or like Jeff or whatever who plays in the film.
Alec Baldwin, the actor. Although, can we hear this from Jeff just because it's one of my favorite things?
Yes. Hey, baby, who is it?
It's,
room service.
Oh. How you doing? I thought you guys always wore those, penguin coats.
Usually we do. But I was just changed to go home. And, then I thought I'd take this final call.
Great. If you don't mind, I would like something, too. Could you bring me up some really, really cold water?
I'll see what I can do.
Still, not sparkling.
Absolutely. Ice-cold still water.
Unless, of course, it's illegal in the UK to serve beverages below room temperature. I wouldn't want you going to jail just to satisfy my whim now.
No, I'm sure it's fine.
Thank you. Hey, one more thing. If you don't mind, could you adios these dirty dishes and take out that trash, too?
I really don't say adios these dishes enough. That's not something I need to... every time I hear it, I'm like, I got to start working that in to my lexicon. I mean, people are going to hate me, but...
I have a hot take there.
Oh, God.
Well, to be clear, like...
Are we doing justice for Jeff right now? Is that what's happening?
A little bit hashtag justice for Jeff. Because I don't think we know the whole story on Jeff. It seems like he maybe cheated on her or like he did some bad stuff to her. The only thing he does in that scene that's really bad, that's like horrible person level, is be like, don't eat too much or you're going to get fat. Asking the guy who's taking your room service order to take the dishes away for extra dollars, I don't think is that bad.
Oh, I'm not saying
it's not something I would do, but I think it's played as bad though.
I don't think it's played as bad. I disagree. I don't think it's played as bad. I think it's played as actory douchey. I don't think it's played as bad. I think it's the watch what you get. I don't want people to say that there goes that famous actor with the big fat girlfriend. That's played as bad.
That's rough.
That's not great.
But I think earlier in the scene, you're supposed to think this guy's a dick.
Oh,
and that comes at the end of the scene.
Yeah. I think you're supposed to hate him, but I think you're supposed to hate him because of all the goodwill that Hugh Grant has mustered through the first 45 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, this is a guy that can get a sentence out, and we don't like that
I'm not
anymore.
Happy with him having all this confidence with his words.
Exactly.
Thinks he belongs in the room.
We only want eye contact when it's brooding, now that we've met Will. Everything else needs to be like head down, scratching, a lot of scratching, a lot of like, oh.
A lot of this, a lot of hand back straight through the hair.
A lot of hands in the hair, yeah.
I will say every time I've returned from Europe, all I want is a super...
Jesus Christ.
I just heard it.
I'm sorry. Did you hear it?
It on the back end there. On the back end.
Yeah.
I heard it. I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of it.
Turns out you can take the peeking out of the boy. All right.
So
continue, my Hollywood friend. Every time. God, it's exhausting.
So
you got a private plane too? Take you to Europe?
No, that's just
be honest.
Regular Tom Bradley terminal.
Okay.
Coach, flying coach.
Mm-hmm.
On the very few occasions that I have been to Europe,
doesn't sound better.
I know it doesn't, but whatever. I do want a cold drink. Like badly, I want a cold drink so bad.
Yeah, that's the thing. Asking for an ice cold drink, making fun of England for not having cold drinks, like those things didn't bother me that much.
No.
That's a dumb joke I would probably make to housekeeping.
There was nothing like he was douchey and then he was mean. And the meanness, I think, is what sold it. But Alec Baldwin, though, coming in as a heater, like throwing like 120 miles an hour in that scene.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Doing great. He was having the time of his life in that scene.
He did an interview and he was like, oh, Notting Hill was like awesome. He's like, I got flown to London. It was one day of work. I'm with the radiant Julia Roberts and I get to say that stuff. Like this was
I get to demean her and slap her on the ass and like laugh and then fly home. Make fun of Hugh Grant for a while and then leave.
But that was the thing I liked about the faces that you knew, which we obviously didn't know Misha Barton at the time. We know her now. Okay, you're looking at me weird.
My God, was that Misha Barton?
The little girl?
Yeah?
Yes.
Holy fuck.
And the thing that's crazy about that is it's only 5 years away from her being in the
Shut
OC.
up. Nope.
Yep.
Nope.
Yeah.
My head just exploded.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
5 years later, she's in the OC. She got taller.
She did.
Yeah. And we also got to give a shout out to Clark Peters, another actor in Helix. You'll see him in The Five Bloods.
Mm-hmm.
He's very, very good in that. I think Treme.
I didn't know he was in that.
Treme was probably where I think most people recognize him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been acting for 35 years. I recognize him from Treme. But he's awesome.
Treme.
Yeah.
That's another rec I'm going to wrec at the end. I love Treme.
Because it's a great show, and anything that has
you
Steve
guys,
Zahn.
brace yourself for these recs. They're coming.
The Steve Zahn classic, Treme.
Hey, listen, Steve Zahn didn't do a bad job in Treme.
He's never done a bad job, ever.
Is he riding Cars with Boys?
Not a great movie, but he's awesome.
Yeah, I guess. He's fine.
He's fantastic. I will not. You can shit on Anna Scott. You can talk about The Bad Direction. You can talk about crappy titles. We will not be doing any negative Steve Zahn content.
I love Steve Zahn.
I'm
just saying he hasn't always been good.
Sounds like you hate him.
This started by me complimenting Steve Zahn and Treme. That's how this conversation started.
It feels like you said he was terrible in Saving Silverman, which is not something I'm willing to listen to.
I would never say that.
That's what I heard. I heard you thought
he's
an
how I feel about
overrated comedic actor.
Let's not do this in front of them, okay?
I just... Sorry, guys. Occasionally you get to peek behind the curtain, and it's not always rainbows and butterflies.
It's not always roses,
yeah.
you know? Sometimes we get in knockdown, drag-out fights over Steve Zahn.
So that was Misha Barton.
That's nuts.
Whose favorite Italian director is Leonardo DiCaprio. It's a dumb joke because there's no way Hugh Grant doesn't. It's 2 years after Titanic, for God's sake. There's no way.
I feel that I am married to a man who 2 years after Titanic had no idea who Leonardo DiCaprio was.
But does the man that you married sit down for movies at random with his roommate?
No, he's never seen a movie.
So like they like watch movies. Like they
yeah, that's true. He watched a movie with his roommate.
Yeah.
He goes to the theater. Yeah.
So he knows who Leonardo DiCaprio is. Anyway, I still like the joke. That's the thing about how charming Hugh Grant is in this movie, where he's like, and which is why Richard Curtis has said like Hugh Grant is the only person for the parts that I put him in my movies because he just knows how to say what I'm writing. That's it's exactly how it sounds in my head. Which is funny because Hugh Grant hates like romantic comedies. I don't want to say hates, but like he kind of is like, I got sick of doing those. Like those are not. I just show up and I say the words, and that's like it.
Yeah, but and then he transitioned to his career in
well, he did
other things.
Yeah, he did the A Very British Scandal or whatever on Prime was decent.
Sure, yeah.
Florence Foster
I'm not
Jenkins.
saying he can't act in other things. I think Hugh Grant is a fine actor. I just can't really remember his big drama career after he transitioned out of romantic comedies.
About a Boy, yo.
It is a romantic comedy in a lot of ways.
It's not.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
He doesn't hook up with the boy, but there's a romance kind of throughout.
Isn't there like a Rachel Weisz or somebody in there? Isn't there a love story?
Yeah, there's a love story, yes.
Yeah.
It's just not as funny of a joke. Yeah, Hugh Grant, though, he kind of sounds like a dick.
Well, that boy grew up to be a hunk, though.
Nick Holt, also a very good actor.
Yes.
Like Mad Max Fury Road, and you got me to watch The Great, which is great. And he got screwed out of an Emmy nomination, but it's...
Yes, he did.
He's
and he looked the great in it. So, you know, I'm not going to say Hugh Grant should have hooked up to the boy, but maybe like given it a few years and then...
Wow.
And I said I wasn't going to say that because it's a bad joke. It's in poor taste. I said you should wait a few years. We're not into that here on the...
No, on 6.
I'm sorry I did this to your podcast. I'm sorry.
My podcast is
Where are we at?
Banned from Apple. Anyway, so many more questions. You guys had a ton of questions. Love that. This was from Aaron P. Were there any parts you found charming on the first watch that you don't feel the same about now?
Ooh, she's fishing for something.
I know, right? I thought this too, and I'm like, no, I'm thoroughly charmed every time I see this movie.
I will say that on this watch, for whatever reason, I noticed far more how dirty and stinky his flat looks.
Gross, yeah.
And how, if I were her, I would have been uncomfortable in how gross his flat is. And if he said, do you want to take a bath? I would say, hard no, not here.
Not in
definitely
this
not.
Place. Yeah. That is one thing. And I have more visceral reactions to what I think smells like or what things smell like than most people. But every time they're in that flat, I'm like, I was just grossed out. Totally and utterly grossed out. The only thing I can think, but the bath was still in obviously a common bathroom because Spike goes in. Because I'm thinking like, oh, maybe it's a 3-level whatever and Spike's level's really dirty, but...
I want to get this out now. Spike was going into the bathroom to masturbate?
Pee, I thought. Oh, no, because he had the... Yeah,
with the magazine open?
Yeah, you're right.
Doesn't Spike have a bedroom to do that in? Is this common? Do men stand over the toilet and masturbate? Is that a thing? That's gross. Don't answer it. I just personally think it's gross. Go to your bedroom, Spike. Go to the bedroom.
I would assume that it is in bad taste to use common areas.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like doing the shower or something. Don't do it over the toilet. That's a very strange choice, I feel like, Spike.
But of the choices Spike makes in this movie, maybe not
the weirdest. Yeah, I got it. But I think for Spike, it would be...
I'm surprised it's not in the kitchen.
More on track to just do it in the kitchen. Yeah, it's just like...
Let me get my shirt with my rat head on it and...
There's a sink, you know? Yeah.
That brings the whole... This yogurt has gone bad. I also love how he says yogurt. Love that.
Keeps eating it.
Oh, it's mayonnaise.
They do say mayonnaise with such a flourish, though, you know?
Mayonnaise.
That's mayonnaise. Like, ooh, sounds fancy.
Maybe now I will eat it by the spoonful when you say it like that.
Yeah, maybe. All right, are we at the dinner yet? Or are we even going? Are we just taking questions?
We're getting to the dinner right now. Yeah. So, in my opinion, the dinner scene is kind of the entire encapsulation of the movie. If you wanted to make this a short film, I think you could really successfully do it from the time they get to the dinner to the time that they leave, and it just ends in the park with them on the bench. That's a really good 20-minute short film.
Agree. And I wouldn't be sitting here calling her a bitch.
Oh, so is this like the only part? We got to talk about that, I guess, before we get to the dinner. Like, why do you think she's a bitch?
I just think she's so unfair to him at every turn. Like, he never shows her anything but that he's totally genuine and on the up and up. And she never gives him the benefit of the doubt. Not once. And she is on the paparazzi morning. She is so mean to him. She's so mean.
Yeah, and that's the only time that I think like she handled that horribly.
Mm-hmm.
But with this caveat, I think that they kind of go out of their way to ensure that we as an audience know Will has no clue what her actual reality is. The only reality Will is aware of, because he says some really ignorant shit too in that whole exchange. Like, oh, this will all...
He does at the end. But she has already lost her shit on him in an unfair way by the time he gets to saying his unfair shit.
Right. But I also think it's crazy every time I see it that he's like, don't go out there. How does he not say
just
that?
Don't leave. Yeah. He kind of does when she's about to open the door.
But there's so much time that goes, like, she's walking
he
that
could
way.
have stopped her. He could have, like, held his hands out. I don't know. It blows my mind. The only thing I can think is, I don't know. I just took it as such a bumbling moment that he was just so freaked out by when he opened the door that he couldn't make the words.
Yeah.
Which, is in character.
But I like how, when he's like, your perspective's a little out of whack, and she's like, no, our perspectives are a little different. Like, you need to understand what my life is versus what your life is.
I think most of the things she said in that were fine. But upstairs, when she's getting her shit together, it is, oh, this is going to be great for you. You can tell everybody you fucked me. Like, that stuff is just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Way out of control. And listen, we're not there yet, but she has a boyfriend this whole time. And she says this thing of like, oh, I didn't know if he'd ever come visit. So what, they're fighting or whatever, I guess. I don't know. But she doesn't tell him. And then when Alec Baldwin is like, is this a good surprise or a bad surprise? She's like, good surprise. Like, get this loser out of here. I want to have sex with you. Like, it's very, it's rough.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the having a boyfriend or whatever is rough. And I think that and it's one of the things I like about her is she doesn't handle everything perfectly. And Julia Roberts did a good interview about this where she was like, it's weird. Like, I had to not judge this character because I was judging her so hard about every single decision she's making is not what I would do, which I think goes back to, you're not going back to his flat. You're not kissing this random guy. You're not going to invite, like, everything she's doing. You're not going to handle the nude thing this way. You're not going to handle whatever.
Right.
And she's like, in order to play her, and she does play her, like, I think incredibly genuinely, but also not perfectly. Like, she's not a perfect person. She makes these huge mistakes, which is, again, something I like. I don't like movies where you have one of the characters that is objectively perfect and then the other one's just fucking up and you're waiting for that other person to figure it out. Where I think Will would be our objectively perfect person, but he's not either. Like, he is way too naive about her circumstance, I think, not to be an actual character flaw. Not just like a sweet, oh, I don't get it. No, you don't live in the sticks, man. You live in London. You understand paparazzi. This is a thing. Like, how can you not get it?
When she's on the historical set and she says, oh, he's a guy from the past, it's kind of awkward. I honestly don't know why he's here. She didn't need to say that.
That's true. No, I totally.
She could have said he's an old friend.
Yeah.
That's so strange.
Yeah.
Why did she feel the need? Yeah. I don't know.
No, I give you that. That's the one that actually bothers me more than I just got this paparazzi pictures 2 days after my nudes leaked or whatever, her response there, which is not great. The one that always bothers me is the one on the set where he's from my agent's office. You can lie about a million things. You don't have to be like,
there's so many things.
He's nothing. He's from wherever. I tend to give her, I think, a little bit more of a pass because it would be, even at the point that they were at the having the fight after the paparazzi, he had shown his ignorance in a couple of ways, and they had been to, they had dated and seen each other a little bit through that time for him to be able to say, or should have been in the spot to be like, I get it. I get your full-rounded world a little more than I did maybe at the beginning.
But I also feel like she's already had 2 interactions with him that he could have told people about.
Yes.
And she knows he didn't tell anybody because she hasn't heard about it. So for her to jump to, this is going to be great for you. You can tell everybody.
Yeah, that's a below the belt hit. Yeah.
I hated it. Okay.
But what's great is the dinner and everything about the dinner. So.
Yes. Oh, Horse and Hound is also hilarious.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
I wish it would have come back at the press conference. I wish that when they raise their hand and they usually say, from Time Weekly or whatever, right. This is Erin and I'm asking a question. They didn't do that in the press conference, but what I wanted was for everybody to say their magazines or newspapers and then call on him and then him be like, Horse and Hound.
But he does at the end say the readers of Horse and Hound will be excited. Yeah, no, I'm with you.
But I wanted him to have to say it first. I wanted him to have to be like, this is a question from Horse and Hound.
Horse and Hound is such a brilliant choice.
And it would make the question so much more funny. Like, from Horse and Hound, would you give him a second chance if he apologized to you? And said he'd been a right prick.
And guys, obviously we can't go through every inch of the movie, but just the press junket part, when they're doing the Helix press junket, that whole sequence with the two of them with her PR agent in the room is just absolutely incredible. And that's the classic Hugh Grant stumbling, bumbling. I can't walk in a straight line.
What about hounds? Readers are
equally interested in both.
Horse and Hounds.
You are Horse and Hound's favorite actress. Well, you and Black Beauty. It's a tie.
It's on a submarine. How unfortunate. It's so good. It's so good. Anyway, I just wanted to acknowledge Horse and Hound before we get to the dinner.
Yes.
The dinner.
So the dinner. Okay, we are finally at the dinner. It's kind of interesting that I feel like this movie builds to the dinner, and the dinner is such an explosion. I don't want to say that everything that comes after the dinner is a bit of a letdown. But there's a lot of stuff that happens after it, but this is just such a happy, fulfilling scene that accomplishes everything the full film is trying to tell you about all of these people. And I think it's great that she calls him back to cancel her thing from the press junket to go to the dinner, which is great. She brings a little gift from Tiffany's, which is a super Hollywood thing to do. I wouldn't know anything about that. Hollywood. I want to be very clear.
Oh, really?
Because I don't live in Hollywood.
You've never gotten me a birthday present.
No.
Period. I don't know that you've ever gotten me a birthday present. I'll have to think about it.
You own from Justin to Kelly, so you're welcome.
Oh, I do own from Justin to Kelly. Oh, you got me that prop from Gangs of New York one year?
Yes.
You have gotten me birthday presents. I'm sorry. I was
good. I was good to my friends. Come on now.
Yeah.
What was?
I don't know. I didn't even get a fucking call.
No. No, that's
you were.
True. Yeah.
You were back in the day.
It's all gone away. 2020 is a motherfucker.
Happy birthday, by the way. When was that?
June.
July?
Yeah. Let's exchange happy birthdays now, because I think this is the first time we're doing it.
Happy birthday, man.
You too. So they show up, and it's his sister's birthday, and Max is the worst cook in the world, which is always a wonderful trope. I never understand how you can be that bad at cooking. He opens the oven, shit's burning, and he just closes the oven.
But also, this is like a classic Richard Curtis thing. Like, remember the dinner party in Bridget Jones's Diary where it's like blue soup because she uses blue string to tie the thing together? I mean, this is his favorite.
And it's a good trope. Like, not all tropes are bad. It's a great trope. It's wonderful.
Tropes are great.
Yeah. So he's really bad cook, comes to the door, kind of ignores Anna, which is a nice little sort of sleight of hand. This is where, when we're talking about actual filmmaking, because like I said at the beginning, to me, this is mostly just frame the shot and let million megawatt Julia Roberts kind of do her thing and let Hugh Grant do his thing, and charisma wins the day. This one, there's some kind of interesting dolly shots and kind of how they're cutting and weaving through the table, and they're not necessarily always focusing on the person talking so much as the person reacting, which I think is really nice.
Yeah. And they don't have them seated stupid so that you can see all of them in every shot.
Right. And it's also not at some sort of Victorian mansion where this is a small table in a small home, and it's crowded and it's cramped and it's smoky, and it's one of the things that, while I absolutely detest smoke, I think smoking is gross, I love it in films, because just watching some smoke filter through a shot, it's really way better on black and white, but even in color movies, it just sort of adds this dimension and depth to the scene that I really like. And it makes it feel more communal that way, I guess, as far as I'm concerned. But I love all the people in this scene, even though they do shit that I hate. Like Bernie, asking about, the story about the salary?
No.
So the salary line where she's like, I made $15 million.
Oh, yeah. I thought you meant there was a story behind the line or something.
There is. Yeah, there is. So.
Oh, okay.
So the original scripted line, I think, was like $8 or $10 million. And they kept, take one, and Bernie would ask and she would say 10 million. And then she said 12 million. And then she finally gets to 15 million. And Hugh Bonneville, who plays Bernie, finally asked her, like, why do you keep changing the number? And she's like, I'm sick and tired of lowballing myself.
Oh.
I'm like, oh, Julia Roberts is that lady. That she is. And when I went back to watch some interviews of her kind of doing some press for this Today Show, stuff like that. And I kind of forget because I don't watch TV in that way anymore. Like you used to say, or at least I did, like, Tom Cruise is going to be on the Today Show, or, and
it's not a thing anymore.
It's just not a thing. You forget when people had movies coming out, they went on the shows to do interviews. And people are trying to have this like, oh, well, you did this, like, whatever. And she was like, no, I'm going to seriously talk to you about this. Like, you're not going to make fun of me because I know you're not asking Hugh Grant the questions in this. But, like, it was really, like, no, I'm throwing it. And I loved it. Like, it was great. And that was that was an attitude she brought to this movie, which I thought was really interesting. But, yeah, I love the idea that I just think that these people get together for dinner, like, twice a month.
Yeah, they really seem like real friends. They all fuck up in some kind of lovable way. Like Bernie's worse than the others, but God, the sister's great.
Yep.
Where she's like, I know this is an opportunity for me to be cool, and I'm not going to be. And I've just always thought we could be best friends. Like I could find cheap clothes for you. You don't need cheap clothes. Like and it's so great how awkward it is at the beginning and then how settled it is by the time they clip to the dinner scene and everybody's cool now. And now they're making jokes about how the sister is best friends with her and like how stupid it was for her to have said that. It's really great.
And like, I've never hung out with movie stars, but I assume that would be kind of how it would be, right? Like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah. I thought it was pitch perfect.
Yeah. That first exhale of like, oh shit, and holy fuck and all that. And
have you never hung out with movie stars?
Is
that accurate?
I've met, but no, like hung out and stuff. Nah.
Have you ever hung out with any of the stars of Center Stage? Which is a movie?
Yeah. I don't consider him an actor, but we've played some tennis.
It's incredible to me.
We have played some tennis.
I try to think of actors that you've hung out with, but that's one. Matthew Lillard, I believe. Jai Courtney?
That was Jed. Jai Courtney.
Oh, I thought that was you.
No. Jed met Jai Courtney. I just liked that. Like, it was just so cool that they exhaled. It was like, okay, now this is just somebody at dinner.
Yeah.
And the brownie game.
The brownie game's so good. What a great piece of writing.
Unbelievable piece of writing.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think should have won?
Oh, that's a great question. Not her. Not Anna Scott. I don't know. I think Bella has to win just because she's revealing this news for the first time and she cried. She sold it.
Yeah, see, I think Bella, because like Will ends up with the brownie, which is nuts. His thing is I was called Floppy.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, but he has to end up with the brownie because they can't then give it to Bella after she reveals this thing of like, I was in this accident, I can't walk, and now we found out today we can't have children, and now I'm crying. They can't be like, yeah, you are sad, Bella, take the brownie. Now they have to make it ironic and give it to somebody else.
I can't taste food anymore because you've made me so sad.
Right. I mean, they have to give it to somebody else and be like, no, that's not sad at all, to like cheer her up and make her feel better.
Well, and I think the brilliance of the scene is to have the person that talks after Bella be Anna Scott. Be like, have the stranger to the scene who's the most famous person in the world who, to a commoner, would have nothing to complain about, be the one who breaks the sort of silence and says, well, hey, my life sucks too, as both a joke
and have them not buy it at all.
Well, yeah. but have her do it in a way that was real, as opposed to like, do you have any idea how hard it is to walk down the street and not be able to just disappear? Like, like the genuine, when you ask people about what's the worst part about being famous, well, I can't go into a store. She was like, literally, surgeries, diets, bad boy, like actually opened herself up. I think that was a really, really good part of that scene. God, I love
But then
that
to
scene.
have them tease her about that, I
Yes.
thought was also very important.
Yeah, the rapport that they all established, I was like, ooh, I want to see them all hang out. Like, that's a scene I'm missing from the movie. And I went through all the deleted scenes. They were all excellent deletions. There's a reason they didn't make the movie. But I would have liked to have seen a scene sort of like you get in Crazy Rich Asians, I guess, where like when they first get to Thailand, it's like, oh, the person's hanging out with the crew, and like another one of those. Like,
well, and that makes that last scene where they tell him to go get her so much better because they know her.
Point. That's a good point. Yeah. And I think we're supposed to understand that maybe this was a little bit like maybe she saw them again or something. I don't know. But there's a lot of stuff out there about, 15 facts you need to learn about Notting Hill if you don't know them or whatever. And a lot of them is like, where'd you come up with this idea? And Richard Curtis said, well, I thought it would, I read some things where he did an interview where he said, well, I thought it would be very cool to have a movie where I just showed up to a friend's dinner party with the most famous person in the world. So like this dinner scene was reported to be like the birthplace of this film.
Yeah, it shows.
But then Hugh Grant did an interview and he said, Richard doesn't tell this story, but we were having a drunken evening together, and this story is based on a true story. Not in his life, but he knows a guy who had a very famous person who was unnamed go into his shop, and they went back to the apartment or whatever and had some fun, and every time that person was back in London, they would sort of reignite the rendezvous and back and forth. So I don't know who it is. I could not find that. I'm sorry. I hate to tease you with that, but
I know that's such a great story.
That's an awesome story, unless
Who
it
was
turned
the
out
famous
horribly.
person? And
I
also,
don't know.
why not me? Why not Erin? I don't understand. Why is it never Erin?
Erin walks into Ginga Teague, and
Gingo Teague.
But yeah, so I guess he says, "Hey, Richard will never tell that story. He doesn't like to." So the official word.
So
from
I'm going to
Richard,
tell it publicly.
Yeah, exactly.
Hugh Grant.
I'm gonna be Hugh Grant because Hugh Grant is a bit of
really
a
want
dick,
this to get
guys.
out.
Like he's a bit of an asshole.
Yeah, well cast in Bridget Jones.
Yeah, I mean, prostitution controversy aside, he's done some like him and Julia Roberts didn't get along after this movie because he said some things about her voice being too deep, and that he could hear the echo from her enormous mouth when they were kissing and things like that. Which is
that's rough.
I think too many things get written off as like, oh, that's just his sense of humor. Well, then his sense of humor is being an asshole. Don't
say it publicly.
Yeah, don't do it.
If it's his sense of humor, he says it to a bro and then laughs and then moves on.
Yeah, or they're close enough that they joke about it together, but it's not press junket stuff. So,
and also Sandra Bullock has a huge mouth too. So like,
well, and if we're gonna talk about absurd features, Hugh, let's have a chat.
let's talk.
I could tile my bathroom with one of your front teeth. So let's not sit here and talk about a big mouth for Julia Roberts. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I've seen also he is a big of a dick, and it has nothing to do with the prostitution issue.
No, not at all. But they then go to, I don't know, maybe the most heartwarming scene as they're walking away from dinner, and it's the whoopsie daisies.
Oh, the whoopsie daisies.
The whoopsie
and daisies. Then she goes right over the thing, and he can't climb it. He's such a bumbler. But then they walk around and they find the bench and the those people, they died on that bench or whatever, and it's sweet.
It turns out it was actually they were murdered. They
really,
yeah, they.
That's why it's a red bench. That makes so much sense.
The old people were sitting there, and two guys just walked up and shot him in the head. It was terrible.
But they were in love, and some people really do spend their whole lives together because they die together, murdered on the bench. But this is where there was like that weird drone shot.
Yeah,
that like I didn't get it. I don't understand what that was. There were a couple things like that. This is the one that sticks out.
In our last episode, we were talking about the Good Will Hunting, where you're like, the direction's pretty much fine, but then you have some really like a weird slow-mo for no reason, like just using it for no reason. And I think that's a good example of the drone thing. Like,
you have a great scene in Good Will Hunting where it's just like zoom in on that tongue as close as you can, get in there, and then you have a weird like just kind of a sideways shot that you're like, why is it sideways? I don't understand. Yeah. I agree with that about Good Will Hunting.
So I
just had to say it.
I know you did. I know. The Whoopsie Daisies is the best line read from Hugh Grant the entire movie, because that's an impossible line. Like
the second time?
He obviously says things that are more charming. This is his role. Like, I think this is probably the best he's been in anything.
Yeah.
To say whoopsie daisies and not make it sound like you're trying to say whoopsie daisies, but rather it is something you say.
Mm-hmm. Twice,
like impossible. Just incredibly.
The second time, you're trying to act like you're actively trying not to say whoopsie daisies, and you still do.
Yeah,
that's a rough line.
It's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible. And so this is where we realize they're falling in love, and this is all wonderful. And it's a lot of really good sequences that don't go on too long, which again is a problem that I run into in way too many romantic comedies, where this one's like 2 hours and 4 minutes, which is a little bit long in the tooth for a romantic comedy as far as I'm concerned.
Yep. Found that out the hard way this morning when I delayed our recording by half an hour. Thought this was a little bit shorter.
But it's long-ish, but I don't know what I'd want to cut out. You know, I don't.
No, there's nothing I would want to cut out.
The only thing I would get rid of if I had to would be there's really no reason to show that he was trying to date again. Maybe. Like there's no point in that.
Maybe not. Yeah.
You know.
I think maybe we could have lost the thing where he defends her with the guys at the restaurant.
Yeah, probably. But
because I felt that conversation was a super unbelievable conversation. As good as Richard Curtis he didn't write that to be like, no one sits around with their buddies and talks about which actresses want it.
Yeah,
right. That's such a weird thing.
I've known a lot of shitty people. I've never had those conversations. The extra special glimpse into my life. But I think if you wanted to have the dating scene, I think you maybe not have him set up. I think they were trying to push, because the supporting cast is so good, they're trying to have Max and Bella in it a little bit more, as opposed to just show him going on 3 dates and actually dating Emily Mortimer, as opposed to bad setups. Sure. Just be like, oh shit, now you're back and I'm kind of dating this other person.
Although the fruitarian setup, which who knew that fruitarianism would then become a thing that is not what she explains, which is close to freeganism is what she explains that she does. But fruitarianism is a thing, and it involves nomming on a lot of fruits, as we learned.
I was getting ready to ask you if you were one, because you've had quite a few delicious looking berries while we've been recording this.
I was hungry, and I thought that it was something that wouldn't chomp.
They look delicious.
No, I'm not a fruitarian. I was a fruitarian briefly one time, but it only lasted like 3 hours.
Oh, sure.
But when she's explaining what fruitarians are, did you so the camera zooms out, and as she's explaining it, Max and Bella just like quietly hold hands as if to say, I'm so glad I found you and I'm not out there.
The more that
anymore.
I see that, I think they're like clutching hands to be like, aren't we terrible fucking people? We did it to him again.
Yeah.
We did it to him again.
But I kind of think with this lady, it's like somebody they knew at the office, but they didn't know it was this bad. Like they thought she was kind of cute, but they didn't know. I really feel like that one, they didn't know how deep the crazy went.
And I also feel like setting people up, and maybe I don't know, because obviously been happily out the game for quite some time. And I don't know that setting people up is that a thing now? Like, it feels like a thing from a bygone era. Like, let me set you up.
I think people set each other up.
Or maybe it's just not something that happens, I mean, I was married at 26, so maybe it's not something that happens until you're in your 30s. But I didn't know any friends that were trying to set people up.
You're hopeless. Here's a shot.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's just... It was never something like... I don't remember any of our friends ever trying to set people up.
I have friends that have set each other up, and I think it's something that does happen when you're older. Because, I mean, you met Jesse in college.
Right.
And that's a time when you don't need to be set up with anyone because you're in college.
Right.
But once you get out of that and making friends is harder, and the only people you know are your work friends, then it gets a lot harder.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
And
that's a good point.
You have to rely on internet dating, and much better is a voucher from a friend.
Right.
And in 1999, that just didn't exist at all online dating.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen more Emily Mortimer, but I don't know if that's based on her performance in this movie or if it's based on the fact that I've seen her in a bunch of stuff afterwards and really like her.
Yes.
So we have a few more questions. I know we're getting a little long in the tooth, guys, and we'll wrap it up here. But we had a couple more. Brenda Divot was in in a nice, fun place because she asks 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Big feet, large shoes, fact or fiction? And does floppy refer to the hair, question mark?
He says it does.
Yeah, I don't know that that's
But are you saying...
I don't know that that's her implication. But so I'm going to answer very specifically. Yes, it has to do with the hair.
I think it does. I think it has to do with the hair.
Yeah, I would think.
I think it does.
Yeah, I would think so. If it's his school boy like nickname.
Yeah, because I honestly think he would have told her if it didn't have to do with the hair.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have been able to stop it from coming out of his mouth if it didn't have to do with the hair.
I think it's
like
yeah.
This man cannot keep a self-deprecating remark in.
No.
There's nothing he could have done to stop that.
And if it refers to something south of the hair, I did watch all the deleted scenes, and I can tell you that it is not contained in those. It is also my understanding that if you have big feet, you do indeed have to buy large shoes.
That's true.
Also, people ask, does James Bond really never have to deal with this shit? My God, do I love that line. And no, he doesn't, because James Bond is an asshole with no friends. So there's no one in the car with him. Okay?
James Bond is an asshole with no friends. It's true.
Is the house real? We covered that earlier. Yes, it is. At least the exterior is, not the flat you saw. How
Disgusting.
bad does Spike smell? I feel like we've hit this, but this is like on a scale of 1 to 10, he is like a 4 million.
Spike smelled bad and Reese smelled bad. We've covered both.
Yes. So I have 2 huge questions before we go on. One, where does this rank in the Richard Curtis filmography for you?
Oh. Okay, I've got to really think. Oh, I prefer Four Weddings and a Funeral to this. I feel like that is my number 1. This would then... I really like Bridget Jones. I don't know between this and Bridget Jones, which I prefer. I enjoy rewatching Bridget Jones more. I'll say that.
Than Notting Hill?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I have a problem. I have a Colin Firth problem.
You're afflicted with the Darcy disease?
Yes, a little bit. The more I watch Love Actually, the more it loses its charm for me.
False.
I still watch it. I'm just saying it loses its shine a little more every time I see it. What else we got?
I mean, that's kind of those are his big ones. I would say.
Those are the big
think,
ones.
Yeah, those are the big dogs. I would say that I'm with you. Four Weddings. It's hard because sometimes when I look at people, whether it's Aaron Sorkin or it's a Richard Curtis or it's an Antoine Fuqua, you hate to look at like one of the first things they did and say the first thing they did is the best thing they did. But in this case, I think Four Weddings, first of all, it was unique at the time. It's been redone 100 times. Some would say Notting Hill is a bit of a nod to, that formula, although it's way more stylized and sort of Hollywoodized than a Four Weddings. But Four Weddings is just such an incredibly interesting movie and so well done and so well acted. And that's my number 1. I would call this my number 2. I would call Love Actually my number 3. And a close 4 would be Pirate Radio. I really enjoyed that movie. It's not a romantic comedy. It's just it's like a solid.
I like Pirate Radio. Yeah. Oh, About Time he did, right? That was good.
That wasn't me.
People like that one.
I would that
find it deeply sad at parts.
And then I guess the biggest question that we have to ask at the end of every romantic comedy is, are they still together?
Ooh, yeah. I think there was an epilogue and they told us.
Well, no. There's an epilogue that they're together 6 months later or whatever, maybe married, but like 2020, are they still together?
Oh yeah, 100%. Mm-hmm.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah, these two are.
There has been talk. Richard Curtis has talked about wanting to get the band back together for a sequel.
A Notting Hill sequel?
Yeah, I don't think
that's not
ever going to happen.
No, that's not the band you get back together of all. No.
Sorry. I don't know if it's a sequel in the sense that he did like the Love Actually sequel for Red Nose Day, where it's like a short 8-minute film or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's an actual sequel, but it's like, you can't have, in my opinion, don't. This is fine. This is perfect. Like, don't. But you can't, like, nobody cares about a romantic comedy, I think, in the context of divorce. I can't really think of a good divorce romantic comedy. Like, they kind of try with Crazy Stupid Love, but that's the part of Crazy Stupid Love that I hate. Because Crazy Stupid Love should be a very, very good movie, but it's 35 minutes too long. And it just kind of keeps going and going and going and going. So I think maybe they have kids and they would have to fall into some sort of romantic. It wouldn't be Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts for an hour and 40 minutes. It wouldn't be that.
God, I hope not.
Well, and the thing is, like, I don't want it to be that, but if you're going to make it, it kind of has to be that. So let's just not make it. Let's just not do that.
Let's just not do it.
Richard,
why would you?
You've emailed us a bunch on other episodes, so I hope you're listening to this one too. Just don't do it. We're good.
We're
totally
good.
Cool.
We don't need it.
We're totally cool. And I think we kind of got through most of the random facts that I was able to kind of dig up. Julia Roberts hated the line, "They go to bed with Gilda, they wake up with me." I don't really know why. It doesn't strike me as that interesting of a line, but also, like, it's not, nobody puts baby in a corner.
Well, I think there is, she plays such a confident character. I feel like there's, I feel like if she had insecurities, that wouldn't be those. If that makes sense. Those wouldn't be them. I can kind of see that. There are so many remarkable lines in this movie that we haven't, like, I'm just going to acknowledge your kind request and leave it there, is such a heartbreaking line when he lets her down.
Well, and I do, we're going to, that's going to be the last thing I want to talk about, is that whole final sequence. So let's just do that, because we talked about the dinner scene being kind of not only the onus for making the movie, but also the movie in a capsule. But the scene that everybody remembers is obviously this.
The thing is.
What? What is the thing? Don't even think about it. Go away immediately. Go away.
Right. Sorry.
You were saying?
Yes. I have to go away today, but I wondered if I didn't, whether you might let me see you a little. Or a lot, maybe. See if you could like me again.
But yesterday that actor asked you who I was, and you just dismissed me out of hand. I heard. You had a microphone, I had headphones.
Well, you expect me to tell the truth about my life to the most indiscreet man in England?
Excuse me. It's your mother on the phone.
Will you tell her I'll bring her back?
I've actually tried that tack, but she said you said that once before, and it's now been about 24 hours, and the foot that was purple is now sort of blackish in colour. And
Right. Yeah. Perfect timing, as ever. Martin, hold the fort a second.
Yes, all right. Could I just say, I thought Ghost was the most wonderful film.
Is that right?
Oh, yes. I've always wondered what Patrick Swayze is like in real life.
I can't say that I know Patrick all that well.
What, he wasn't that friendly during filming?
Well, I'm sure he was friendly to Demi Moore, who acted with him in Ghost.
Oh, right. Sorry. Right. Always been a bit of an ass. Anyway, well, it was lovely to meet you. I'm a huge fan of yours. And Demi's, of course.
Sorry.
It's fine. There's always a pause when the jury goes out to consider their verdict.
Anna, look, I'm a fairly level-headed bloke. Not often in and out of love. But, can I just say no to your kind request and leave it at that?
Yes. Fine, of course, Of course. Well, I'll just be going. Then it was nice to see you.
The thing is, with you, I'm in real danger. It seems like a perfect situation, apart from that foul temper of yours. But my relatively inexperienced heart would, I fear, not recover if I was once again cast aside, as I would absolutely expect to be. There are just too many pictures of you, too many films. You know, you'd go and I'd be, well, buggered, basically.
That really is real now, is it?
I live in Notting Hill, you live in Beverly Hills. Everyone in the world knows who you are. My mother has trouble remembering my name.
Fine. Fine. Good decision. Good decision. The fame thing isn't really real, you know. And don't forget, I'm also just a girl standing in front of a boy, asking him to love her.
So that's just a magnificent scene. I mean, that's just incredible.
Mm-hmm.
She's perfect. The outfit is perfect. He's incredible in it.
Oh, he's so good in it.
And what's really weird is in a lesser movie, in a much shittier version of this movie, that's like the last scene. Like a writer or a director's trying to play it cool and against the grain, and this is the last scene.
Mm-hmm.
And this sort of is that second jump start to that last 10 minutes or whatever, which I think is really interesting. It's sort of like, instead of eating right all day so you have energy throughout the day, they're like, we're going to give you a candy bar right now to get you through the end of this movie. And it's going to take you through the press conference. I'm just a girl. Shouldn't that be like tacky? Shouldn't that whole thing just sound tacky?
Yeah.
And
oh God. She just does it so well. It's just so good. It's so earnest.
It is. And every time I look at it and you take the words out of her mouth and you just put them on the page, you think it's bad writing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would think that it was bad writing. Like, the fame thing isn't real, right? Like, you've heard that in a million different movies, but when she's doing it, this is the Russell Crowe in Gladiator, where, like, there's a lot of lines that are just, like,
yeah.
Are you not entertained? I know what you're thinking is, like, you had to bring up Russell Crowe in this. Of course,
it's fine. It's fine. But
But, like, that's what it is like, here, Julia, do this. Like, this one I'm not giving to Richard Curtis. This one I'm giving to Julia.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And there's a reason why, like, when the paparazzi mourning happens and he tries to get her to stay and tell her it's nothing and it's not a big deal and it's not real, and she tells him basically to fuck off and she's going to regret this for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
And he just, like, so broodingly is like, well, I won't. I will treasure it forever. So
honestly, it's just like that. I was going to play the clip, but you nailed it, so we're good.
There's no acknowledgement that when she says, the fame thing isn't real, right? That could have been a line that offended me when she said it, because that's what he told you a year ago in the foyer of his flat. But she delivers it so well that you don't think, like, you hypocrite. Like,
Yeah. You divorce it from her sort of mania over, and not really mania, like, she's right to be upset and be worried and be concerned. But yeah, it's so genius. Oh my God.
The way she delivers it is almost because he compliments her when she comes in and says he's been watching her over the past year and she won this Oscar and, like, congratulations. And the way she delivers the responding lines, you realize that she's realized over the past year that it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And once you realize all your dreams, you realize that those were the wrong dreams to have.
Yeah.
And somehow you get that out of her saying that one line.
Yeah. No,
Right.
it's so much is accomplished in a relatively short scene. They have joke callbacks, which is incredible. They have his mom call in, which I think is really funny.
Really
like,
good.
Tam dog, I love you, but shit goes to voicemail if I'm having that situation. Having the old reader, the reader
his
with
mother
the Grish.
that he's calling Tam dog in that moment, in case anyone's wondering.
That is true. Is that weird?
But also, I
do?
love that for the character. That's like his mom is called twice.
Yeah,
like nothing's more important to him than his mom. You know, like it's just. I just love that.
To have the Grisham guy come in and him go, no, absolutely not.
No,
Get out.
not you. My mom,
not today.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, not today. It's just awesome. And then that like goes immediately to like she brings in a painting that's wrapped up. We all know that it's going to be the Chagall painting, but
dumb painting.
He goes to the restaurant.
Hot take. Dumb bad painting. Sorry.
They had to destroy it after the filming, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure.
For fear of the counterfeit market.
Of course you would.
So he's sitting, and I just love this scene. I'm going to play it. It's a little long, but I just want to play the whole thing because it's magnificent.
Good move. I mean, when all's said and done, she's nothing special. I saw her taking her trousers down, and I definitely glimpsed some cellulite down there.
Good decision, yeah. All actresses are as mad as snakes.
Tones, what do you reckon?
Never met her, never want to.
Brilliant. Max?
Absolutely. Never trust a vegetarian.
Great. Thanks. Brilliant.
I was called, my king, what's that?
William's just turned down Anna Scott.
You daft prick.
No, it's actually quite sensible.
That painting isn't the original, is it?
I think it might be, yeah.
But she said she wanted to go out with you.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice.
What?
Well, you know, anyone saying they want to go out with you is pretty great, isn't it?
It was sort of sweet, actually. I mean, I know she's an actress and all that, so she can deliver a line, but she said she might be as famous as it can be, but also that she was just a girl standing in front of a boy, asking him to love her. Oh, sod a dog. I've made the wrong decision, haven't I?
Okay. Good friends or bad friends in this moment? I should say this. First go round. Good friends or bad friends?
I think good friends the full time.
Okay, I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
The first time they're trying to make him feel better about his choice, and then they just can't do it anymore.
Well, see, I think it's this. I think it's a bunch of friends who have seen him go through a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, look, stats would show that he's going to get broken again.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hoping between Honey and Max and Bella and Bernie and Spike, one of us is going to have we all want to tell him he should have said yes.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the one. I don't have the strength to do it, but one of like maybe it's going to be Bella.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be Honey.
Maybe somebody else will.
And once somebody else does, then we'll be like, okay, actually that.
And that guy is Spike.
And that guy is Spike, which is a fucking clutch player. He comes to play.
But I will say, I would have had the wrong. I know myself. I know I would have had the wrong answer, and I would have been like, "No, man, fuck her. Like, you do not. And then when everybody else said yes, and then they got together, I would have had a serious conversation with that lady. Listen. We like you. We were there for the brownie. We got it. We hit it. You're very charming, but we see through your shit. We know. And don't you think we don't know that you've been a bitch to him? And like, if you do it again, I'm going to give you bad review on Amazon for your next movie.
I just imagine that.
I'm serious.
I know you are. Trust me. I know you are.
A lot of my friends are married to people that I was like, no, don't you dare go back to him. and then I've had to really eat crow. I know myself.
No, the line that I love the most too, though, is first of all when Spike says "daft prig," it's just wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it cuts to Bernie, and he's so sad, Bernie kills himself between now and then in 2020. I think.
Stop.
It's depressed. It's sad.
Yeah.
And then when he goes, I mean, like he double checks with him almost to be like, okay, did I hear it right? She said she wants to go out with you, which is a very like elementary school way to say it.
Yeah, but it's true.
And it's like, and then like Will thinks for a minute. It's like, yeah, that's what she said. And Bernie's like, well, that's nice, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Just somebody wants to go out with you. Yeah. It's so sweet and so sad and so pathetic. It's wonderful. But then it leads into, obviously, he's like, fuck, I messed it up. I believe he says prickerty.
Is that a word?
I don't know. British fans, again, gonna need some emails to let us know, or if I'm just hearing it wrong. But then they get in, they do the James Bond thing. I love that they put Bella in the car. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And they get to the Ritz. And then it's not there. They go to, I believe, the Savoy and the wonderful climax at the press conference. And I love that, like...
I have a question for you.
Fire, I'm ready.
Front desk guy says, press conference? It's in the Lancaster room. And Will runs directly to the Lancaster. He's been there. He knows that Lancaster. He knows the Savoy like the back of his hand. Isn't that the weirdest thing? Shouldn't he have been like, oh, the press conference, it's down the hall and to the left? Wouldn't that have been far more believable than it's in the Lancaster room? Okay. Runs as fast as he can directly in the direction of the Lancaster room.
Yeah, there's a lot of, well, I mean, I'm just going to borrow from Heaving Bosoms. There's logistics with Erin here real quick.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's weird he knows where the Lancaster room is.
Yes.
It's also weird that he asked for credentials. Will's like, here's my Blockbuster card. That doesn't work.
Mm-mm.
And then Bella comes in and says, I'm writing an article about how London hotels treat people in wheelchairs. Wouldn't the next question be like, oh, okay, wonderful. Do you have a credential? Because you can write that article without going to a private or like a press conference that you're not credentialed for.
Yeah, about a movie.
Because
person.
Your article is not about a movie or a movie star. Your article is, how we treat people with wheelchairs. Wonderful. Would you like us? We can check you into a room. We can seat you at the restaurant. What would you like to do? How would you like to experience our restaurant? Going to a press conference, which oddly has no security, that you're not credentialed for, can't do that regardless of, whether.
Well, they're only there because the security at the other hotel betrayed her.
Yep. He's like, you know what?
If that guy had seen him in person instead of listened to him on the phone the first time he called to find her, I would have maybe understood it.
I think we're supposed to believe, because remember, he goes back to the hotel with her.
Oh, you think that guy saw him there?
For the adios the dishes?
Okay, that... I think, okay, that makes more sense if we assume that he saw him, because I'm just like, this is just a random... This could be...
Well, and I think the thing that makes it more confusing is they try to call back to the joke on the phone, when in reality, Will would be like, "You saw me here a few nights ago, or you saw me like please, I'm trying to stalk this woman, please,
please, I'll do anything. I need to breathe the same air as her."
Yes, you know this, but then we get the fantastic plea from Will about here it is, because he's better at it than I am.
Yes, gentleman in the pink shirt.
Yes. Miss Scott, are there any circumstances in which the two of you might be more than just good friends?
I hoped there would be, but no, I'm assured there aren't.
But what would you say if...
I'm sorry. Just the one question, please.
No, it's all right. You were saying?
I was just wondering if it turned out that this person...
Thacker. His name was Thacker.
Thanks. I just wondered whether, if Mr. Thacker realized he'd been a daft prick and got down on his knees and begged you to reconsider whether you would, in fact, then reconsider.
Yes, I believe I would.
That's very good news. The readers of Horse and Hound will be absolutely delighted.
It's just so cute, and the indefinitely is so earnest. It's so good. Everything's so good. Horse and Hound.
When she says, "Yes, I believe I would," it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect.
Yeah,
they're perfect. I believe you. They are still together because a love like that sticks around.
Yeah.
This isn't like Sleepless in Seattle, where
they're not. They're not
Yeah.
together.
No, that didn't happen. Sorry, guys. I love the movie, but this is just a great fucking movie. This is so, like every time I finish this movie, unlike your friends whom I have not met but are wrong, I finish it and I'm immediately like, I could watch that again. I'm in a very happy place right now. I'm very just start it over.
I feel like there's so many things we didn't talk about that are great. Like so many Spike things, so many lines.
Oh, there are. You guys, obviously, if you haven't seen this movie, pop it in. It's, kind of late in the game to tell you to do that, but it's incredible. And this is one of those films where we could spend another 2 hours going beat by beat through. Like we didn't mention Martin. Like Martin's genius in the little stuff that he's in.
Oh,
I even like I even like the cut from The Wedding where he's just like dancing by himself.
Yeah.
You know, a shittier movie in 1999 has him like coming out to the crowd as being gay or something like that. And it's like, we don't need to make a thing out of his character other than he's a bit of a loner that works at a travel bookshop who's looking for friends and whatever, you know, like that's
and
the deal.
Thinks Julia Roberts was in Ghost. Can't tell the difference between Julia Roberts and Demi Moore.
So Patrick Swayze, well, I don't know Patrick. I'm sure he was nice.
I am sure he was nice.
Yeah, I can guarantee you Patrick Swayze's incredible.
Yeah.
You can take that, my promise to you. He was wonderful. Well, I don't really have anything else. You want to do your recommendations?
Yeah,
yes.
I would.
Okay.
I would like to do some recommendations.
What recommendations did you have prepared before we recorded? Go ahead.
Have you seen The Replacements? What a great movie. What a solid movie.
Is this the third movie in the Johnny Utah trilogy?
Oh, don't with me on this. I can't do this anymore. Please. I've had to talk about this with you several times, and I had to listen to an episode where you talked about it with Jed. I can't do this again. Yes, okay. Yeah, it's the third. Is it the third or the second?
It's the third. It goes Roadhouse, then Point Break, then The Replacements.
Oh, see, I was thinking Point Break was the first, and then I don't know, John Wick.
That's where the worlds collide. It's actually a Swayze collides with Johnny Utah. So Swayze from Roadhouse goes into Point Break and is Bodie.
Sure.
And then Johnny Utah goes from Point Break into The Replacements to play football.
Can we add John Wick though?
Well, after Shane Falco gets cut from the team, he then loses his shit a little bit. Loses his fucking mind. Brooke Langton breaks up with him, and then he becomes a killer. Yes, we can do John Wick. We can turn that into a...
Anyway, feel-good movie, Replacements, great.
Yes, fantastic, really good.
Killing Me Softly is the worst movie you'll ever see. Also a romantic movie in London. Hands down, the worst and funniest film, like really shot for shot, the worst movie you'll ever watch in your life. It's incredible. It's astounding how bad it is.
It's impossible. Yes.
Treme is a great show with that guy.
Clark Peters, come on
now. No, I was saying Steve Zahn.
Steve Zahn.
But hey, here's a real wreck. The best romantic comedy I've seen in a very long time was Palm Springs, and you need to watch Palm Springs. I will talk about it forever to anyone who will listen. I've made so many people watch Palm Springs, and no one has regretted it yet.
No, it's
Go on
fantastic.
Hulu.
We talked about it for like an hour after I watched it.
I am not a rewatcher. I don't watch movies in the background. I need complete silence to work and sleep, which is something that Cole does not understand. He always has movies in the background, always.
Notting Hill was one of my favorite movies to fall asleep to. It was fantastic. I have to have noise on at all times.
Yeah, I'm not that way. I need silence at all times. So if I'm going to watch a movie, it's because I want to watch it, which is why I don't rewatch movies at the rate that you do by a mile. When I finished watching Palm Springs, I immediately started watching it again.
Yeah, it's
That's how good
good.
Palm Springs is.
Well, like I watched it, and then Jessie came home, and I was like, "We're watching it," and the two of us watched it, and she was like, "That was so incredible." I'm like, "Yeah, no, this was really, really good."
I watched it. I knew it was going to come out that day. I watched it in the morning. Then I watched it a second time. And then when David came home from work, I had to pretend that I hadn't watched it so that he would watch it with me. I'm like, I really want to watch this movie because I wanted him to see it, but he won't watch anything that I've already watched before. So I was like, oh, I want to see it so bad. I had to lie to my husband.
By the way, just as as someone who lives in California, the line "everyone has to find their Irvine" is just spectacular. I also live about 2 minutes from Irvine, so it's just all very just spectacular. It's a business park. Irvine is a business park, basically.
But it's J.K. Simmons' paradise, and I love.
Of course it is, and there's very nice houses there. It's wonderful, but
and
you find
had
your
to find
Irvine,
that
folks.
out. Yeah,
find your Irvine.
Do you how? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Where's yours?
No, what was your question? No,
I'll talk to you about it. Not on a podcast. I have a couple questions for you about Palm Springs.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So my recommendations for Julia, I'm going to tell you, I mean, obviously all the regulars, but Mystic Pizza is a genuinely good movie. And when you see that, she is a movie star. She's not a movie star yet, but every time like she shows up and you're going, I don't know who that is. She's a movie star. And it happened. Also, I mentioned it earlier. It's not a good movie. Also Matt Damon.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned earlier, it's not a good film. It's a cult movie, and it's very funny. The people that are in it, Flatliners.
Mm-hmm.
Did
you see the remake?
It's a fun watch. I didn't know.
I was wondering if it was good.
No, I didn't see it. This is it's funny and sort of campy bad, but it's worth a watch. For Hugh Grant, again, all the regulars. I think Sense and Sensibility is really good.
Mm-hmm.
About a Boy, I think, is probably his best individual performance.
Really?
And yeah, I think he's really good at it. But I mean, he's playing himself, I think, to a certain degree, which I think can be very difficult. But I like that movie a lot. And Extreme Measures, slightly action-y sort of movie, but it's Gene Hackman and Hugh Grant. And I got to tell you, this recommendation is more about Gene Hackman than it is Hugh Grant, because there was this kind of mode in the 90s where Gene Hackman just took movies, in my opinion, to dunk on the up-and-comers that were becoming famous. Because Gene Hackman seems like a total asshole, but he is an incredible actor. And when you watch him in things like Extreme Measures, where I don't think Hugh Grant is a bad actor, but the difference between him and Gene Hackman is so incredible that like there's no closing that distance. And every time they're in a scene together, you're like, okay, what's this guy doing? Same thing in Enemy of the State, where Gene Hackman's just dunking on Will Smith the whole time. And Will Smith is not bad. You're just like, you forget how good Gene Hackman is. And he was in these Crimson Tides and these kind of action movies there in the 90s, and it is incredible. So Extreme Measures. For Reese, let's do Pirate Radio, because I've mentioned it about 12 times on this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
For Richard Curtis, I just always watch 4 Weddings and a Funeral. Incredible. And then for the English rom-com, this movie should be unwatchable. It should be. And is it good? I don't really necessarily think it's good. Is it hilarious, and have I seen it 25 times? Yes. And that is King Ralph.
Okay.
So everybody get your John Goodman, get your Peter O'Toole, get your Camille Cudjory fix, and watch John Goodman as the American turned King of England. Also, John Hurt. She's cut the amount of people that were in this movie. Just a phenomenal movie, guys. It's incredibly fun. It's bad, but it's funny.
I don't know how I didn't see that coming, because I know how much you love King Ralph. I don't know how. I was like waiting for the punchline there, and I didn't see it.
I I can't tell you how hard I looked for that DVD.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Because
it's probably
they didn't make a ton of them.
Hard to find. Yeah.
So anyway, guys, thanks so much. This was our episode on Notting Hill. Erin, thank you very much for
Thank you
taking
for
the time.
inviting me. I appreciate it.
Now, what in the world in this garden could make that ordeal worthwhile?
It's amazing how you can speak right to my heart.
Nice garden.
Without saying a word, you can light up the dark. Try as I may, I can never explain what I hear when you don't say a thing. You say it best when you say nothing at all.
Hey, you. Yes, listener, you. Are you loving the show? If so, please leave a rating and review in your podcast app. The 90 seconds you take to say something nice not only helps new people find the show, but it makes me super smile over at HBHQ. Also, I've had a few people ask, and the answer is yes. We are still doing the 5-star bribe. If you leave us a review with 5 stars, then we'll do whatever book you want. We're real deep into the list, though, so it might be a while. Lilas! Okay, back to the show.